Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Option look, Sanders keeps it, makes a cut, first down, still running. Spencer Sanders all the way to the house. A crucial touchdown for Oklahoma State to fight back 37 yards.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Looking for Brooks in the corner. Got it! Touchdown, Alabama!
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Play clock down to 2. Rodgers takes the snap into the end zone. Touchdown to Malik Heath.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And yet another week, here we are. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports in studio at 101 Elm and MLK, about a mile or so down from McLean Stadium on 35 in Waco. Paul Catalina to my left, Craig Smoak to my right. Background today, always making us look good and putting things up so you can see him again and again and again. Levi Caraway, Emery Winter, and also Garrett Ross. It kind of right now when it comes to college football, Pac-12 Media Days coming up later this week, Conference USA Media Days, I think Wednesday. We'll have a couple of those coaches, including North Texas head coach Seth Latrell, who will join us today at 4 o'clock. Now, there are still not much, just other than speculation, rumors, innuendo, and maybe some things that are somewhat legitimate when it comes to the Big 12 or the Pac-12 and much more than that. But I got to tell you, are you worn out by it? I know it's great for us. Are you guys worn out by it?
I'm worn out by the endless spin of Twitter speculation, and what I'm hearing is nobody's hearing anything, really. I mean, nothing's happening. And how these things kind of work now is I think that Texas and Oklahoma and to some extent USC and UCLA kind of said it like, look, if you're going to make this move, don't go shouting around about it. So I don't know. Like, that's what I'm kind of tired of.
I think there's plenty going on that we just don't know about it. We're not privy to. And no, I'm not tired of the speculation. The speculation's fine. What I'm tired about is the proclamations, as if,
there you go.
You know, this person, Utah Ute 56, is telling me the Big 12's dead over and over again on Twitter. Well, I'm sure he or she is right. And that over the last week's gotten kind of old. Random Cal fan, proclaiming how much greater the Pac-12 is than the Big 12 and why the Big 12 is going to die. That's getting a little old. Seeing people draw lines in the sand as though you got to be Team Pac or Team Big 12 is just kind of silly. If I had to choose a side, I'd pick the Big 12. I still think the Big 12 is in great shape. I don't know about the Pac-12. I do know Pac-12 in your favor is there's a lot of media today alone that is pushing the pro Pac-12 I don't know if you want to call it narrative or whatever, and I still feel like the Big 12 is going to be in great shape regardless. I, at this point, don't really care what happens to the Pac. I certainly do care what happens to certain schools. Some I really don't, but, I do care about the Wazoos and schools like that who are just kind of sitting there with no real power in this thing, except for Wazoo has suddenly become a fun toy to go like, look, they've had multiple games of 1 million people in that late night time slot, and that's somehow why the Pac-12 is going to beat the Big 12 out ultimately. I think the fan noise, and we love it because a lot of those people that are on Twitter shouting that stuff are listening to us right now. I'm sure there's a crossover, but the whole tribal thing which I know is the territory when it comes to college football. Like, look, if we were just a pure Baylor show, then maybe the tribal thing would be bigger. But, I mean, we're just a college football show at this point mostly. So, I'm not looking for a conference to die. I'm not looking for one to kill another one. But, I ultimately do want to see the Big 12 and Baylor in a nice spot, and I think they will be when all is said and done, regardless of all the stick your opinion out there and proclaim it to be true forever. I've seen that from plenty of Pac-12 fans today for some reason. So some clarity would be nice just to kind of calm down some of the barking, but it's all fun in the end.
We will hear from Jason Shear, who's become part of our go-to when it becomes someone who covers Arizona but also covers the Pac-12. We'll also today have Ian Furness. He's a talk show host at a KJR radio in Seattle. He's also television Fox 13 in Seattle. I believe that Ian is a Washington State grad, and he has been very outspoken about what's happened over the last couple of weeks, and his thoughts today at a little after 5 o'clock. Seth Latrell, we mentioned it before, Paul's top 5 to close out the show. And David Hellman, Cowboys training camp on the verge of opening up, will join us today from California at 5:30.
I do have one thing it's just continuously in my head, hard to wrap around, I guess, is I've seen all weekend long tweets about how, well, the Big 12 doesn't have anybody that's worth talking about, or the Pac-12 doesn't have anybody, or the only teams that matter are Oregon and Washington, or this and this, and all about, and even the occasional drive-by SEC or Big Ten fan to, just kind of stick the knife and create a wound or make the wound even worse for, I guess, some fan base. They just want to, be mean or whatever. But all this trash talking about back and forth and who's alive or what's not. And yet, the one thing I keep seeing over and over again is cable reports and the future of cable and sports TV. And it's how freaking popular live sports is. So I'm still having a hard time kind of getting my brain on board with the fact that I'm told, like, this league's worth nothing and they will be nothing and they will make nothing. And yet the only thing I keep seeing on the whole TV side of things is TV channels dying for live sports content and just thirsty for live sports content. And then I just get told on the sports side of things, well, the Big 12 is going to have no home. They'll have nowhere to go. So something's not adding up. Either the sports fans who are randomly on Twitter don't know the cable business, or the cable business doesn't know its own business. So I'm not sure which one that is.
I think the cable business doesn't quite know its own business anymore, but I don't think we sports fans can just sit here and go like, this is how TV deals work.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I've negotiated 0 of these, but I know how it works because I have Twitter. So, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not under any illusions that they're going to be making Big 12 or Big 10 Big 10 or SEC money, whether that be the Pac-12 or the Big 12 or whoever else, the renegotiated ACC. But I do think there is plenty of demand out there for live sports, and there's a whole lot on the list that I would think is lower in terms of audience than Big 12 football games, no matter what you want to say about the brands or lack thereof, and the same with the Pac-12. So for all this scratching and clawing about death and survival and all that, like, look, is anybody going to be able to scratch those Super 2? I don't know ultimately, but I do feel like, again, they're going to be fine in the long run, the Big 12 that is, and I'm up in the air as far as the Pac-12 goes. I've seen lots of pro Pac-12 stuff today. Their media days are going to be very interesting to see, but sure seems like there's huge demand out there for live sports, so that should bode well, you would think, for college football teams out there.
Well, let's give you one thing, a nugget on football as far as the Big 12. We will today at 4:30, Paul, take phone calls. Can we do that?
What? Yeah.
At 4:30 today, when we have a gap, we have an opening at that particular time. We do have a guest tomorrow who is a part of the College Football Players Association, a former player who will join us tomorrow to kind of give us feedback on that. That's a nugget for you tomorrow. But let's talk more about, here's the poll, the Big 12. We've told you the media poll about who wins the Big 12. The media voted. Baylor was the favorite, just over Oklahoma State, Texas were in that top 2 or 3 as well, 3 or 4. This is Inside Vegas, a Vegas Insider, excuse me. Oklahoma, the favorite to win the Big 12. Texas, right behind them. Those are 2 names that people will love to put money on. Oklahoma State and Baylor, who played for the Big 12 championship last year at 3 and 4. Then TCU, K-State, Iowa State, West Virginia, Texas Tech, and Kansas.
I don't pretend to know a lot about betting, but I would tell you that 3 of the teams that I think have the better shot than then Texas are all getting pretty good odds for you to go make some money on if you bet on them in Baylor, Oklahoma State, and Kansas State. Now, I think Kansas State probably has, maybe a more of a mountain to climb, but it would not surprise me to see them sneak into the number 2 spot if everything goes exactly their way. And Baylor and Oklahoma State played for it last year, and while they did, each team lost some key pieces, I don't think they lost enough to where I would put them behind Texas in particularly, and Oklahoma, who we've talked about at length here, has not since John Blake, so pre-Bob Stoops, had this much turnover in one offseason.
Can you throw that graphic back up there, Garrett? All right, so TCU, what the world? Why are they right there?
Yeah.
I mean, what? I'm just kind of curious of what to expect with them in the Sonny Dykes takeover, but I would not have had them pegged 5th, so that's very interesting to me just to see that. That's one of my first immediate reaction is TCU 5th. They've got a lot of questions, so that's very interesting. The Texas Tech down at 9. That's a team I think is going to be better than expected, and I do think they got a chance to kind of knock a couple teams off that, or maybe would be considered upsets. But they do have a schedule that is tough, so they're a team for me that's a little bit of a puzzle because they're almost working to keep expectations low in a way because it is first year under Joey McGuire and there's changeover, but I mean, we saw his reaction at Big 12 Media Days when basically asked him, like, don't you have basically everybody coming back outside of, like, 2 players? And he's just, like, slyly smiling, like, yeah, let them underrate us. And I'd been screaming that for, like, 2 weeks before we even talked to him, and he almost just confirmed of, like, yeah, let us be under the radar. Yeah. And I don't think that it means that they're going to go win 9 games, but I do think they could very easily be a bowl, or not easily, but they could very well be a bowl team his first year. I don't think they're walking in with, like, this is Matt Rule taking over Baylor where – anything above a win would be great. So they're kind of sneaky there at number 9. And then Oklahoma, I saw a big dust-up involving one of our site members last week with an Oklahoma writer. They are so angry. And, hey, I'm getting ready to see my family from Norman here in a couple of weeks. But, like, if you to even say anything about them not being loaded for bear and not missing a step under Brent Venables and not skipping a beat, like you're the crazy person for thinking at all that they might like skip a beat this year. And skip a beat for them means like maybe win 9 games. But, I mean, the expectations are super high. This is why they'll remain competitive in the SEC is because, I mean, it's like this or nothing for Oklahoma and that fan base. But just the sensitivity that some people in that fan base have over you even just saying, like, you're not going to go unbeaten and win the Big 12 is like you'd think that you'd call their mother a whore or something. I mean, it really is. It is like that, though. It's like it's so personal to them.
Well, Kendall Kaut from Sikkim365.com wrote a couple of things, put some things up on Twitter. I think it might have been either Thursday, Friday, over the weekend where he talked about Oklahoma and once they entered the SEC. But even now, and they lost their mind on him.
Oh, my God. Yeah. It was like insane.
Because he writes for Sikkim365.com, they wanted to, like, bury him under, like, oh, Baylor does one thing. And it's people's opinion.
The best part was him retweeting all the people who said, obviously, you've never heard of Jeff Levy.
Yeah. Former Baylor offensive coordinator. Yeah, you're right. We haven't heard of him.
We're familiar. Here's what I would say.
Idiots.
Here's what I would say. Would West Virginia be thrilled with what I think Oklahoma's record is going to be this year? Should turnover really affect them? Yes, West Virginia would be thrilled with 9-3, which is where I'm kind of pegging Oklahoma and I think they'll be good. I think in 2023 they might be badass, but I think that there's a lot of things that have happened and things don't just congeal overnight. Football is a game of repetition of getting down all of the things that go in, and teams are better when they've been together longer, and this team hasn't really been together that long. I love Dylan Gabriel. I think he's a hell of a quarterback, but honestly, what's he ever really done? So let's let these people achieve before we put these things on them. And, yeah, would Maryland love to be 9-3? Of course they would. Now, will Oklahoma fans be happy with 9-3 this year? No. But that's fine. That's why you get to be Oklahoma. You can be sad when you lose 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what their final record is going to be. I mean, they might lose only 1 or 2. Yeah. I mean, I'm expecting to be good, but it's not crazy for somebody to have some doubts when they're changing over coaches, and it happened in as dramatic of a way as it happened. And sure, they could be better on the other side of that. I know that's what a lot of people have already convinced themselves of because they've seen a few videos and, behind the scenes. Like, look, Oklahoma fans, and look, I'm one of you, but I've seen enough coaching changes that all this stuff that you're celebrating, that's coaching changes. Like, look at Texas Tech and Joey McGuire right now. Everybody's happy. Everybody's positive they're going in the right direction. Why? Because they changed coaches, and it wasn't fun, and now it's fun again. And so what's going on in Oklahoma is no different, really, than what happens at pretty much every place that has a first-year head coach. So I understand the optimism and all that, but there's just as much reason to have some level of pessimism or some level of, I don't quite know if they'll be that good when they've been as good as they have for a long time. And if they remain that good, then that's why they're Oklahoma. But if they skip a beat, I don't think that would be shocking. And again, what are we talking about? Losing a couple games? And people lose their minds over that. It's just insane.
From Benjamin Fellows, thanks for the super chat, $5. Thank you, sir. Outside Notre Dame, choose 16, 20 teams from the Pac, ACC, and Big 12. Create a super conference. Who would you pick? Need enough ACC teams for grant of rights. And it's not that. Appreciate the super chat. The grant of rights of the ACC and how long that is. On top of, listen, there may be, even though, you kind of get the feeling that there's movement somehow with the Big 12 and the Pac-12. It all just depends on what side you're on which way it goes. Do you realize how hard it is to do, just add one team? It's not as easy as people realize. To add teams, to change things up, it's really hard. And now you have 4 incoming teams coming into the Big 12 next year, a year from now, a little bit less than a year from now, and then you're trying to also negotiate 2 or 4 or 5 others coming in. It's very complicated.
You guys tell me what the schedule's going to be less than a year from now. They have – essentially, when all this goes down, they have less than a year to make the schedule for the 4 teams that we know for sure are coming in.
That's a super chat, so I'll just go ahead and answer it. I would take I'd go off the top of my head here. Give me North Carolina. Give me Miami, Florida State, and Clemson and Virginia Tech. That's 5, right? Give me it's all the rest of it is Pac-12 and Big 12. That's 5. Give me Oregon, Washington is 7. Give me Utah. That's 8. Give me Baylor 9, Tech 10, Kansas 11, Oklahoma State 12, West Virginia 13, and oh man, that's when it starts to get a little tough there. Arizona 13 or Arizona 14. Let's go with them, and I'm at 14 with a couple of spots. And I'm going to piss off some Big 12 fans, that's for sure, because I can't include everybody, but man, who would be left out of all those schools there? See, that's where you would have your who's got the biggest media marketing, who's got TV ratings, and who's got all of that to fill out those final couple spots. But that, off the top of my head, that's what I would have. And I know I'm probably missing somebody that's pretty obvious, but just trying to riff on that a little bit to answer your question.
All right, let me get to the chat room, and there's also some text line information. Again, Jason Shear will join us, and Jason will try to update us on anything that he's heard. There was some pretty good smoke about over the weekend that maybe the Pac-12 has received in a way a general figure about the value per year with both USC and UCLA out of the way. We'll let Jason confirm that or not. And here's what, without reading specific chats, that this thing just goes on its own, and we appreciate all of you. It's like watching the columnists. Some are pro Pac-12 who want to throw some shade at the Big 12. Some are Big 12 who want to then throw some shade at the Pac-12. And I get that. It's a turf war. It is an absolute turf war, and it's what you have, passion for your team, passion for your conference, whatever else. But that's what it is. And it was interesting, and Jason even said this today in a tweet. It's very interesting on Monday that there were 2 Pac-12-type writers with, by the way, they could be right, both basically with the same type of stories today, propping up the Pac-12 on the same day. And one of them last week kind of got hammered. And Stuart Mandel, we've had Stuart on the show. I like Stuart, theathletic.com, when he was throwing out just like, I don't even see how any way whatsoever that the Pac-12 is not superior than the Big 12. That's his opinion, just like you have yours and I have mine. We have ours. But it does seem as if there are people who have like dug their heels in this is where you're going to go. And honestly, I haven't dug in my heels. I do think the Big 12's in a more power position, and I do think, as Mac Rhodes and Brett Yormark said, they are in the positive, proactive stage, not the reactive stage.
Yeah, if I had to jump on a life raft, I'm jumping on the Big 12s without even question. And I understand the TV ratings you want to throw in my face, and Washington State's got like 9:30 kickoffs that are above them, whatever. Like, that's fine. But I said it last week. Everybody keeps the 9:30 kickoffs, the 9:30 kickoffs, the 9:30 kickoffs. Like, that was the rallying cry. BYU is going to be in the Big 12. Okay, there's 4 weeks of your 9:30 kickoffs. Have Big 12 teams roll through there. Go add Arizona. Okay, there's another 4 weeks that you could do. Go add Colorado. There's another 4 weeks you could do. Go add somebody else. There's another 4 weeks. There's your 9:30 slate the entire season. So your big advantage could be wiped out by just adding 3 Pac-12 teams that are in that region. Now, granted, there's 2 different time zones there. You got your Mountain, which is what BYU's in, and what I think a couple of the others would be in. And then you got your Pacific, and that's where it would be a little bit more problematic because you don't have Oregon, Washington, or those like LA area. I don't know how you would swing that and how much of a difference that would make. But Mountain time zone, that's easy. You have BYU and you add a couple more, and you just, hey, sorry, Oklahoma State, but you're going to go play at 9:30 in Provo on a Saturday night, and then guess what? You'll have a home game next week against Texas Tech or something. That part of it is like the big angle. That's like the big – no, wait. This is why they have the strength, this 9:30 window, and it just seems to me like that's easily dismantled and could be the Big 12's 9:30 window very easily. So I don't know how great of an advantage that really is. And
that's just assuming that the 4 schools they would get if they got 4 schools would be those 4 corner schools. Yeah. If Oregon and Washington were 2 of those schools, then that whole, it's the Mountain time zone is moot.
Yeah, how's this even a question is what I wonder. Yeah. But again, I don't know what other little factors, but that seems really easy. I mean, Oregon, Washington, you want to come take care of this 9:30 window, boom, Big 12's done, complete. Add a couple of teams, and that's it. But it's obviously a bit more complicated than that.
By the way, I had something happen yesterday with me. I tried to stay away. I did a podcast with Tim Fitzgerald late Friday evening. Got home, my air conditioner was not working. Someone wasn't able to get there till that evening, so that I would just kind of ran some errands late at night, like Walmart, whatever. Did a podcast with Tim, came back. And then yesterday, because Paul, for whatever reason, is distracted, my cell phone froze. And so I really stayed off of social media yesterday, which was a good thing. I never felt more comfortable. My phone just froze, and they couldn't reboot it. And so then when I get back on, I realize I have all these things that are out there, and really nothing's changed from what was said Friday. But when I said at the start of the show that I'm not tired of the passion when it comes to college football from the fan bases, the conferences, or whatever. It's just kind of, you want to get to an end, and yet guess what? We're going to be dealing with this for a long, long time.
Yeah, long time. There were people predicting this would be over like last week, right? Oh, you'll hear something today, but Notre Dame's about to make a decision. It's like literally nothing has changed. Literally nothing has changed from last Monday, right? That I can think of. I mean, is anything significant other than just talk? No, nothing's changed since a week ago this time. So, yeah, I mean, if you're tired of it, well, then you better go find something else new to follow, because this is not changing, this is not going to just come to a conclusion rock solid and everything's going to stay in place for a while anytime soon. And even when whatever this next thing's going to be, whatever that is, the Pac-12 teams bolt in, or the Pac-12 getting some fancy, shiny new TV contract that keeps everything great, and they more revenue share for Oregon, like whatever the outcome is, it's not going to be the end of it. There will be more ultimately. How quickly, who knows? But I think you can read the tea leaves and see that this isn't about, just a couple of teams making decisions and then the Big 12 and Pac-12 sorting them out, and then boom, everything's done and clean. No, there's going to be more to this. So, better giddy up, or get ready to giddy up some more with this expansion stuff.
Let me tell you about Notre Dame. Notre Dame moves at the speed of Catholicism, okay? They don't have any impetus to move. And I say that as a person who grew up Catholic and knows that things don't change in the church all that fast. And now they're not even made to do it business-wise either. So Notre Dame will, like, if you ask them, when can we expect a decision on what you plan to do, they can say when we're good and ready.
Whenever we're ready to do so. From K.S. Kaiser, ultimately the Pac-12 will always be a regional conference versus the Big 12 becoming now coast to coast in a way. That alone pretty much destroyed this dude's argument, talking about somebody from earlier. And again, a lot of you, there's a lot. Hey, so what's changed, David Miller? What's changed in the last 3 or 4 days? Not much, other than really that there are people in contact with each other. You know that there are either presidents and or ADs and or others involved in whatever committees and board members that are talking. I did see this story over the weekend. This from John Canzano, who covers the Pac-12, and he feels like the Pac-12 is in a power position, but I did see this part. The Pac-12 Media Day is coming up Friday, and apparently the Pac-12 has basically asked USC and UCLA, or at least they're suggesting, perhaps based on his report, that their ADs don't show up. Now, one thing about the Big 12, even when they've had their balls kicked in a few times, they've always allowed the team that's leaving or will leave to still be a part of it. In fact, Texas and Oklahoma were a part of the discussion on who the next commissioner was going to be. You can argue they shouldn't have been in that position. They were, though. And so the Pac-12 is throwing down if, in fact, that does occur on Friday or doesn't occur on Friday.
Yeah, the only thing I would say to that is, well, at least with the Big 12, it was like a year after the fact. It wasn't OU and Texas announced their exits after Big 12 Media Days. They did it after Big 12 Media Days, like a week or two after. So everything went ordinarily and normal and whatever, and everybody got out of AT&T Stadium in Arlington, thought the Big 12's future was so bright, and then like a few days later, boom, out of nowhere, this report drops and the whole college football world changes. This, on the other hand, like the breakup just happened like a couple weeks ago, and they're going to meet up here pretty soon. So I can see where, that would not be kosher to see them involved in Pac-12 to-dos, this time. So I can see where that's a little too fresh is my point. Whereas with the Big 12, there's like a whole year to kind of have meetings and kind of,
And maybe even bury the hatchet.
We'll go add new teams.
So one of the note is that the governor of California has been throwing out some of what political people do, and you could like him or not or agree with him or not. But he has no impact on USC, right?
No,
They're USC. A private school, Paul.
He could have theoretically some impact on UCLA, but he's just pandering to his base. What Gavin Newsom is doing right now is what politicians do when something happens that's technically under their purview that they've delegated, and it happens, and then there's people who need an explanation. So there are people in the University of California system whose reasons are appointed by the governor, Gavin Newsom, who are kind of, maybe a little bit academically screwed by UCLA leaving and going to the Big Ten. Now, those decisions are made at the school level, and UCLA, believe me, thought about that beforehand, but all they want is Gavin Newsom to be like, well, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. And then what's going to happen is he's going to UCLA, and they say, well, what'd you do? And they go, money. And he's going to go, that's the language I talk, money. That's it.
There are and has been reports that they are going to not allow UCLA to use state funds, the California system money, to go make trips to the Big Ten teams. Whether that happens or not, who knows? Should just be talk. And also AD Martin Jarmond, I think it's from UCLA, had just been appointed to the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee by the Pac-12. They took that away from him.
Well, I'll say, how did those no state trips to tournaments with laws that California doesn't like work out?
There you go.
I mean, so they can say that all they want.
When we come back, we'll hear from Jason Shear. He covers Arizona, but also all over what's going on within the Pac-12 as well. He'll join us today. He's next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com, located in the Central Texas marketplace, and their business is fantastic. They have a massive, big time, what you need, state-of-the-art technology MRI machine. I have been in it 3 times. And every single time, by the end of the day, once when I was there during the afternoon, I got a call back pretty quickly, early evening. One time they opened up and stayed open for me to get over there after the show because I needed something to be checked because I was having some problems with my neck and my shoulder and my lower back. And guess what? I had the results back, a call from Dr. Rob Maxey that evening. And you could have that too. I've told you the story about the woman who needed an MRI on her knee. It was going to have to cost her $1,600. She called Ideal MRI. It cost her $497. And all of the images and whatever else they needed or she needed or her doctors needed available immediately. IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas Marketplace in Waco, just off I-35. Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
At Allen Samuels in Waco, the new 2022 Impressive Wagoneer Series 2 and 3 have 2.9% for 72 months, plus $4,500 competitive bonus cash going on now. That's right, and $4,500 bonus cash. This incentive on the new 2022 Wagoneers for a limited time only at Allen Samuels in Waco. First responders get $500 extra cash. Come shop the new car and truck inventory today at Allen Samuels Waco.
Come by, let's be friends.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
We might as well, although we're not going to pay him, put Jason Shear on our staff. He's done a remarkable job since we found him and saw some of the things that he has been doing, covering. Jason Shear, again, Wildcat Authority 247 Sports in Arizona, joins us, Sikkim 365 Radio. Jason, thanks for your time. Pac-12 Media Days coming up on Friday. Should be interesting. So after all of whatever was said, have you seen anything at all different from where we were Friday or even mid last week? Has there anything changed in your opinion?
Not really. I think it's all going to come down to the numbers. From what I understand, there was numbers that were given to school presidents and athletic directors last week, and they're pretty far off. Now, it's just a matter of, what the process looks like. Is it far off on purpose? And then ESPN tries to work with it. Is it far off because that's the offer? It's just a situation where it's got to kind of play out. And right now, I just think it's headed towards the window ending, and then the Pac-12 going with their television and media rights to the open market and seeing what it can get there as well.
So if this window ends, though, is that bad for the Pac-12 trying to stay together?
It definitely doesn't help. I don't know if it's the end of everything, but it definitely doesn't help, because what it means is that basically ESPN wasn't interested enough to pay right off the bat. And it would be the type of situation where, from what I understand, the Pac-12 is they have to get creative. So can they sign a deal with ESPN and then add a deal with like Hulu or Amazon or some kind of streaming to make up the difference in revenue? I think that's where we're headed, is maybe they will agree to some sort of lower offer, but the Pac-12 will kind of find unique ways to add more money to their pocket, so that the initial deal may not be as big, but they're going to get creative with Olympic sports and things like that in order to match it. But, if it was up to the Pac-12, admin and brass, they would have been done already and everything would have been secure, but it doesn't look like we're headed that way.
Jason, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you answered this last week when I said if Arizona could walk out the door right now or whenever that timeline would be, you felt like they would do it, but they would like to know who else might be walking out the door with them. Do you still feel that way, or even stronger?
Yeah, I still think it's a situation where I feel comfortable saying that the Arizona admin would like to be in the Big 12 right now. But, there's aspects to that at play. They don't want to go alone. If Utah comes with them, that would be probably the strongest option, is that, if Utah comes and says, we'll go to the Big 12 with you, that becomes a situation where I think they probably both jump at once. It's Arizona is going to need another school to go with it. I think they're willing to see if the Pac-12 can make it worth it for them to stay with a certain financial offer. But right now, let's say the negotiating window closed and the offers weren't coming in, Arizona would be gone. I think that they're probably the most active school, from what I understand, what I've heard, and looking towards the Big 12 conversations like that.
Jason, a lot of what I've read and heard over the last week or so when it comes to, putting the shine on the Pac-12 and why they're in a strong position has to do with those late kickoffs, which I'm sure you've read plenty about that at this point. How much is that factoring into the strength or lack thereof in your eyes when it comes to the Pac-12, a TV deal, and where they sit right now?
Yeah, I think that basically what it comes down to is the general thought is that ESPN needs something to put into that time slot. And really the only conference that's available and worth it would be the Pac-12. And so people that support the Pac-12 basically think that ESPN is going to have no choice but to sign a deal with the conference and maybe even overpay a little bit in order to fill that time slot. It's interesting because most Pac-12 fans hate that time slot because we're watching games that go to midnight like it's nothing. Like every game I cover in Arizona for the first 2 months starts at 8 o'clock or even 8:30. It's brutal from a media perspective, but from a TV perspective, the thought is that, that could wind up being what saves the conference. It's the fact that ESPN's going to wonder how it can fill those time slots, and it'll keep coming back to the Pac-12 to the point where it might have to overpay a little bit, or the Pac-12 is going to have to accept a poor offer. The thing is, the Pac-12 can't accept a poor offer because the other schools aren't going to go for it. So if ESPN doesn't overpay a little bit because it wants a time slot, it won't really matter.
Yeah, Jason, you're preaching to the choir there. You don't have to tell us in the proliferation zone of the spread offense what 4-hour, 5-hour games can look like late at night. But we had a guest last week, Sean Keeler, who covers Colorado, and he said that the problem with Colorado maybe coming back is that the administration there views the Big 12 as a JUCO league. Do you feel that is something that maybe has spread throughout some of the other teams in the conference about how they feel about the Big 12 and potentially joining it?
Yeah, I think there's absolutely a group of schools in the conference that feel that way. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say it's a JUCO league, but, I absolutely think that there's schools in the conference that kind of, they're arrogant. And that's kind of why the Pac-12 is here in the first place. I mean, the Pac-12 could have expanded years ago and basically decided it didn't need to. And their schools, Washington, Oregon, Colorado appears to be one of them. And that basically think they're better than the Big 12. That's staying together in the Pac-10 or whatever it may be with the academics and all that. They should make an argument where they're better than the Big 12. And there's other schools like in Arizona that feel like, hey, there's benefits to the Big 12 as well. But I absolutely think it's a thought process, and it's fractured the conference, because I think you have schools that are like, no, the Big 12 is great, and you have other schools that are saying we're not going anywhere. And when you have that situation, you have a bunch of school presidents and athletic directors that just aren't on the same page right now.
Hey, Jason, I had mentioned something, a report earlier from over the weekend about how the California system was going to withhold any kind of dollars on UCLA travel. But I keep getting this, that they don't even rely on California state funds, that all of their athletics are funded by their own. They do it all on their own. So I don't know, you saw that where they would not help anything towards UCLA playing games on the road against the Big Ten. That must just be politics, because they don't even use that money.
It's all politics right now. I mean, no one's stopping UCLA from moving. Maybe they make it a little more difficult in the PR campaign, and maybe they try to do some subsidizing with Cal, but I would be absolutely shocked if anything came out of that. With UCLA, maybe they'll lose a little bit of a PR campaign within the state, but it's all political right now. And, I don't think UCLA is as worried about it as maybe some articles claim, because it's not going to stop the ruins. I'd be really, really surprised if it came down to that.
Yeah. Wouldn't they have considered that before they made the decision?
Yeah. I mean, if they thought it would be blocked, they would have gone the more public route. I mean, they're opening themselves up to lawsuits and all that, where if they felt it was a possibility, they would have gone a different route. But obviously they're pretty confident in how they play things out and the fact that they're able to make this move. And at the end of the day, they'll show the difference in pay, and that'll be the end of the conversation, because they're making a considerable amount more than they would have had they stayed in the conference.
Jason, what do you think the climate or mood will be on Friday at Pac-12 Media Days?
I think a lot of it is how the Pac-12 handles it. Do they come out swinging? Do they attack the Big 12? The Big 12 had a PR campaign. Normark got up there and said, we're open for business. Does the Pac-12 say something similar? Do they go on the offensive? Do they go on the defensive? Do they try to focus it, just the football? It's going to be interesting for sure. I think it all depends on how, the Pac-12 commission handles the questions to the media, which are going to be pretty direct. If he goes in the offensive, I think that's probably what I would do in that situation. But you just don't know. They've been pretty quiet beyond some, campaign wars basically that started today with different writers and kind of putting out the Pac-12 as a better product. But I think they control that a little bit. But it's going to be interesting, because I think USC and UCLA obviously this is the first time where they're really going to have to answer some questions, and same with the Pac-12 commish. So it's definitely going to be kind of heated in a way, not like angry or anything like that, but they're going to have to answer questions that they haven't had to answer yet.
You know what? So when do you think Arizona announces they're leaving? Like when that starts on Friday? Just kidding. Just
I mean, if you were going, yeah, you would announce it then, because the heat's all going to be on USC and UCLA. I think it's going to play out a little bit longer, but that would be really funny if they announced it on like Thursday night and then come to media day the next day.
How much do you watch? There's a lot out there, and you've even made comments today about, it's interesting how a couple of different columnists had columns basically the same thing today. That could be just timing. It could be something that was not planned. It just could be, I don't know what it's like. How much are you getting feedback from others because you've kind of been ahead of the forefront on all this?
Yeah, I mean, the issue is, like always with this stuff, is there's so much on Twitter and out there, and there's numbers, and you got to look at, make sure numbers are reliable, and then you got to say, is this person, coming from a certain perspective? And, I get a lot of feedback, and there's people that believe me, and there's people that don't. And I think that a part of it is, especially in the Pac-12, you kind of believe what you want to believe. Like, there's people kind of going back to what we said, like the Pac-12 is a better conference, and anything that doesn't paint the Pac-12 as better is going to be looked down upon. And the Big 12 loves their conference, and anything that doesn't paint the Big 12 as better is going to be looked down upon. And I think that's kind of where we're at now. It's interesting in the last few days, you get Pac-12 and Big 12 fans kind of going at it about which conference is the best. And there's some schools that are like, we want out, and there's other schools that are saying we're good, and eventually we'll get paid. But it's a lot of feedback from people just on, what's right and what's wrong and what's better for each school involved. And the reality is there's not a lot of people that know, and even I don't know every single conversation that's going on in these rooms and where it stands. And I think that's the frustrating part for a lot of people, is this one, the way it's playing out, seems to be much more public than the other two, because USC and UCLA were gone. Texas and Oklahoma even wasn't this public, and this seems to be much more public because that's the way that kind of college football is headed.
We have heard, you've said it, that the number, or at least it appears the number that might be back to them, if in fact that's official, is not anywhere near what they hoped it would be, obviously with USC and UCLA leaving. What is that number, Jason? Do you know?
Yeah, so the number that I heard last week from a few people was 24.5, which is brutal. It's not even close to being good enough. I would say if the Pac-12 wants to keep schools involved, it's got to be closer to lower 30s as a starting point. Now, again, it could be a situation where ESPN did that on purpose. That could be the offer. We don't really know. It could be a low offer, and then the Pac-12 adds, other sources to raise that amount, which I think is probably the most likely situation. But the initial ESPN offer that I've heard is 24.5, and that absolutely won't come close to keeping the conference alive.
Jason, just for everybody out there who hasn't followed this super closely and knows all the details, what is kind of the timeline here, in terms of like the exclusive negotiating window opened up and you're referring to that, but where does all of the rest of the timeline kind of sit at this point?
Yeah, so August 4th is the window. I would be kind of surprised if they came to an agreement before then. And then after that, it's kind of all hands on deck. Like there is really no timeline. And this is a thing where, the Pac-12 could kind of wait to see what happens with other schools. Maybe they say, you know what, Notre Dame's got to decide in the next year, whatever it may be. It could absolutely go on for a year. It'll end because you got to figure out what your future is by then. But I don't think it'll last a year, but it could, because after that negotiation window, there's really not a hard deadline for these schools involved. They may just say, you know what, let's play the football season, and after that, we'll kind of reassess everything. So there's nothing imminent unless it's really quiet. There's nothing imminent right now, and it is absolutely a possibility that this thing plays on for weeks and months.
Thank you, Jason, for a lot of what you've been the last 2 or 3 weeks with us, and hopefully in the future when we get this thing tied up in a bow, although that might be asking for too much. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. We have today at 4 o'clock North Texas football coach Seth Latrell. And then also today, just after 5 o'clock, Ian Furness, who does a show on KJR in Seattle, our good friend Softy, and also does TV up in Seattle. He'll join us. He is not happy about USC and UCLA bolting. It's left his alma mater, Washington State, kind of looking around like in an empty room. His thoughts about all that and more. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac have a lot of great deals going on right now over at Richard Carr. They're the people that you can count on to give you a great deal. Whether you're looking to buy new or buy pre-owned, they will hook you up. All you got to do is give them a call over there at the dealership, or you can swing on by as well. And they've got great people over there like Donnie who will square you away and get you what you need to get accomplished over there, whether, again, it's buying a brand new car, truck, or SUV, or buying pre-owned. If you are looking to buy new, well, make sure you get on their inbound vehicle list. That means you're basically putting yourself in line to be first come, first serve when that vehicle that you chose finally arrives on the lot. It's a little bit of a slow process right now, getting cars and trucks on the lot. The computer chip shortages and all that's been going on the last few months. So the quickest way possible to get into a new ride, if it's not already out there, Richard Carr, is to get your name on that inbound vehicle list. So do that if you're looking to buy new. But if you need a car today, we'll consider one of their dozens of quality pre-owned cars and trucks. All of them have undergone a 172-point inspection, so you can drive them with peace of mind. And Richard Carr will pay top dollar on your trade with dozens of lending options. They say yes to loans when others say no. So go online or come by to check out their inventory today. And if you want to drive your car longer, well, Richard Carr has award-winning service from their collision and service center. Great deals like a price match guarantee on new tires and oil changes as low as $63.95. So the dealer you can count on for a great deal and superior service for the life after that purchase. Trust the good local people you can count on for 23 years in Central Texas, run by Proud Waco and its Proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
From the text line, Sarah Rogers. Have you guys recently discussed the possible ramifications of adding schools to the Big 12 that are ideologically opposed to the missions of religious schools like Baylor and Brigham Young? I know it has come up in the past. Just saw some rumors, again, very, very much rumors, about anything Stanford and Cal. Some fans love the idea. Be careful what you wish for. Here's what I will say. Cal would probably rather give up their football program to join the Big 12 in football. Stanford doesn't need to join anybody. They could go independent and be fine. Doesn't mean they don't want to be a part of the Big Ten, don't get me wrong. There is no way that the Big 12 is going to bring anybody into the conference. They're the ones that feel like they're the ones who have the upper hand here. And if you do, you don't bring somebody in, because none of these schools that are left other than Washington, Oregon, maybe whoever else are going to bring you more money. It sure won't be Cal. And no matter where they are located, I think Cal would rather just not play football than join the Big 12.
And even if Cal brought you, a couple 100,000 viewers at best or whatever it is, I don't know. I'm not these guys with all the TV ratings available, but nothing significant that's just so obvious. Is it worth all of the other potential headaches? Absolutely not. I mean, I have no desire to see Cal in some kind of Big 12 configuration. I just feel like, yeah, that's an odd fit. And, put as much stock as you want to into all the reports over the years. And here most recently, last summer when the Big 12 teams were basically on life rafts floating around and it's kind of every man for himself, there was talk that Cal was one of those schools that was absolutely opposed to, a Baylor joining the Big 12, just like they had been in years past with BYU because of their religious beliefs. So, if I'm throwing out life rafts, they're one of the last ones that's getting one. I wouldn't let them just drown. I don't know. Maybe I would, but I don't think the Big 12 is not thinking about that. I think that's very much probably a part of the equation, and it might not be their choice because, like you said, Cal might just be like, well, we're not joining anyways.
Yeah. Well, and look, people say, well, it gives you the San Francisco market. Okay, yes, it's a gigantically huge television market, but how much do people watch Cal in that market? So does getting it really help you that much? So it's not, market size is one thing, and those are kind of inflated, bloated numbers that you can give. How many people watch Rutgers in New York City? They're bloated numbers. They're fake numbers. So, and especially in a position where the Big 12 and Pac-12 are, they need legitimate programs that move the needle really in the markets that they're in. And so at least a little bit. So, yeah, I don't think you just go in for that because of that either.
When we come back, he's the head coach at North Texas, Seth Latrell, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street behind the bank. The other day I was in the car with Amanda, and she had heard this spot, and she said, hey, you need to tell people what is actually across the street when you say it used to be across the street, nothing, because she's didn't know what I was talking about. I said, so we're there on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. I said, there's Riverbend Liquor and Wine, and there's a big empty lot where they used to be, where Google Maps sends you to, because Google's process is apparently pretty slow. So if you're going and looking and you see on the Google Maps that you're not there, you can look across the street, and that's where Riverbend Liquor and Wine is. Also, they're available on DoorDash. And so if you're hanging out at the pool, hanging at a barbecue at a buddy's house, nobody wants to go make the beer run, you can just hit up DoorDash and they can bring it right to you. Plus the best locally sourced Texas whiskeys, the best craft beer selection in Central Texas, and great customer service and a speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, available on DoorDash, and check them out on Instagram.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas, cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas, count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the city of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Corral on 2nd and 15 as they're chopping down on his legs, and then they take him down high as well. Ika finished it.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Conference USA Media Days this week. We mentioned Pac-12 Friday. North Texas head coach Seth Latrell joins us. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Paul Catalina, David and Craig Smoak. Are you ramped up? Is there a time during the summer when you think it's all go, green light, football is here?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we get a little time there in July as a staff to get away and see our families and, take some time off. But once you get back, kind of after that, and then, the Texas High School Coaches Association ramps up. You go down, talk a lot of ball, and get back into office and start getting cranked up. That's about that time. We all know it's right around the corner, and with us playing week 0, it's going to come pretty quick on us.
Where do you see – you guys closed the year with a lot of momentum, winning a lot of games, and your team really kind of locked in and picked up what you were saying to them. Where's the line of where you carry that over and also where you start a new season where those games don't matter anymore?
Well, every year's a new, just because what we did in the past and/or in years past, every year you have to reset and, make sure you create a new identity to who you are as a football program. Make sure your core values and your culture is most important, and you're fitting into that, and you're really working towards that as the winter, spring, and summer sessions begin. The biggest thing is find different ways, making sure we find our identity, who we are as a football team, and having a really good fall camp. Our kids, our culture is as good as it's been. I feel like we're as healthy as we've been in a long time, and our depth is good. So I'm really excited about this group. They work hard together, pull the rope in the same direction, and they work extremely hard to put themselves in position for a really good fall camp.
Coach, you mentioned the Texas High School Coaches Association event last week. What's it like to be a part of that? I don't think that's something that every state really has. It's something that's sort of unique to us. But what's it like to be around that many coaches and exchanging ideas, picking up on things? How would you describe that event?
It's an awesome event. I'll tell you what, the numbers have really even grown this year. I think they set a record this year on coaches that came, and it's always awesome. It's the best. There's no doubt in my mind. It's the best association in the country. With what they do and how they do things. There's a straight line communication with everyone. These are the rules. This is how we play by the rules. Everybody's on the same page, and this is what happens when you don't do it. But I'll tell you what, a lot of different topics you talk about. They do a phenomenal job meeting with us as not only the high school coaches, but the college coaches and bounce ideas off each other. It's been a lot of fun. It's very organized, and that's the reason why it's the best association in the country.
Seth Latrell, North Texas head football coach with us, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. So we had a writer on about a month ago who had sat down and was doing a feature about a few things, and probably featuring you as well. He said nothing gets your face turning a little bit red and maybe you start, your jaw starts grinding a little bit than bringing up the transfer portal and tampering. You guys have been, well, we know. We've seen it happen. Luckily, your linebacker came back, thank God. But where are we at with all that, Seth?
Well, the transfer portal is what it is. We all have to, as coaches, learn how to adapt and learn how to, go new with the times. I mean, every coach has to deal with it. So as long as everybody is having to, deal with the same things, that's fine with me. I think it's about student athletes. I'm not against the transfer portal whatsoever. I just think that guys need to play by the same rules, and the tampering aspect is where it gets difficult. And, there's one thing with me. I'm going to do things the right way. I wouldn't be able to lay my head on the pillow feeling like I hurt someone else's program, one, by tampering, and two, I'm not going to do illegal things. And so, but there's a lot of guys out there that'll do anything willing to help their program. And at the end of the day, and until someone gets really popped for it, guys are probably going to continue to do it. I just feel like with who I am, who our staff is, there's one thing with me. We're going to do things the right way. We're going to coach our guys up and listen. If the portal helps some of these kids and they're not where they want to be, or they're not getting the playing time they feel like they deserve, and they want to, start fresh, I'm all for it. And, it works for us just as well. We found a lot of great guys out of the portal as well, and guys that we feel like can fit in our system, fit in our culture, and be good for our football team. So it's a two-way street. The biggest thing is just kind of the rules around how to go about the portal and doing it the right way.
You're going to join another conference next year. We see this landscape changing all the time. Oklahoma, Texas, and USC, UCLA. Is that make coming up Wednesday anything at all awkward Wednesday at the media days?
I don't feel so. At the end of the day, it's the decisions are made from the top, way bigger than me. Obviously we're transitioning to AAC this next season. But right now we're in Conference USA, and that's really what I'm focused on. That's what our guys are focused on. I'm not, that's a year away. Obviously, the athletic directors and the presidents, they're making preparations for the transition. It's my job to go out there and win football games. And so that's really what I'm focused in on. So it's not awkward to me. I still have a lot of great relationships in the Conference USA with coaches, the administration. And so it's always good to get back and get around those guys. And there's a lot of great coaches, a lot of great players in Conference USA, and we're really excited about going out there and competing and hopefully winning some games this year.
Coach, how do you feel about the transfer rules that they proposed recently at the D1 Council, where kids can transfer as much as they want without waivers, but there are windows. So in one regard, it makes it easier for you guys that you have a window, and then in another regard, it makes it kind of nuts because now you have to recruit your roster even deeper every year.
Well, that's something that you're going to have to do anyway with the transfer portal. I believe, this profession is still about relationships. You got to make sure that you build great relationships with the men you have on your football team, whether that's coaches or players. I think by far and away, that's one of the most important aspects of it. So whatever rules they make, hey, listen, I let all these smart people make all the different changes and rules and whatever. The thing I always do is say, we're going to, whatever they come up with, that's what we're going to live by. And as long as everybody has to live by the same rules, I'm all for it. And if it helps the student athlete, if it's best for our game for it to go that way, great. I'm all for it. If I sit and worry about every different rule that's coming up right now, I'll drive myself crazy. So tell me what they are and let's go play by them.
Man, amen. Amen. I get tired of talking about him as a media guy. I can't imagine as a coach actually having to deal with him all the time. But, Coach, you do have your media days coming up. What do you think is going to be the big talking points for you and your player reps, Katie Davis and Jake Roberts? What do you think is just kind of be the theme this year for North Texas football?
I think the biggest thing is, again, culture with me is huge, continuing to have a strong culture. And then, the biggest things that we got to do is make sure we're all in. We got to stay healthy. I think we have a lot of depth at a lot of different positions. It's been awesome. Last year it was frustrating. Obviously, we had a lot of injuries, but with any frustration, there's going to be some positives that come out of it, which were a lot of young guys got a ton of reps, a lot of experience. And so, I feel like we're going to have an experienced football team this fall. The biggest thing is just playing smart. We got to stay healthy and find our true identity as a football team. We had to change it a little bit this last year. We're a little bit more spread up tempo. But we really got really thin at the wide receiver position. So we went more 12 personnel and, kind of found our niche and running the rock and playing good defense and then taking our shots over the top. And it worked out well for us down the stretch. So, I think the biggest thing is just finding our biggest strengths, recognizing what our weaknesses are and playing good team football.
Did you get a chance at all? You mentioned a little bit of a sliver of time in July. Did you get a chance to go do something that just took you away from everything? I know you can't, but did you get away at all, just away from football?
I did. We actually took a huge family vacation. There was like 18 or 20 of us. We went to Baja Mar and got to hang out with the young kids. I got obviously my kids and nieces, nephews, and they're from anywhere from 9 to 22. And so it was a great place to where we could all go out and hang out and kind of get away from ball. And there was a lot of different things for all ages of that group to do. So it was a really cool trip. It's always fun. We're a big family. I think that's who we are. That's how we were raised. It's a very tight-knit group, and it's always good to get away a little bit and take your mind off ball.
You were the team captain of the 2000 national championship team at Oklahoma. One, that's amazing. Two, of course, they had the incredible run. Heupel at quarterback. Stoops' second year, I think it was. What did you see? How did that happen? What did you see where everything just flipped so quickly and Oklahoma got back at the top?
Well, I think a couple of things. One, we had a great coaching staff. We had talented players, but, Coach Stoops and his staff brought in a lot of confidence. And then it really just showed me, and you think about from my freshman to my senior year, going, I think it was 3-8. I forget the exact numbers, but winning 3 games to our last year winning 13 games. I think the biggest difference in that locker room was 4 to 5 guys that could actually tear down a locker room and kind of divide a locker room to where there wasn't great continuity. And then when Coach Stoops and his staff got in, it's really 4 to 5 guys that bring everybody together and a coaching staff that brings confidence and everybody's pulling the rope in the same direction. I think it's it's a very fine line. There's not a ton of, from being 7-5 to 13-0. It's just a couple things. And so, but I'll tell you what, we had a lot of talent. We weren't the most talented football teams, in my opinion. We were the best team overall in that season because we played well together. We had some of the breaks go our way throughout the season, which I feel like comes within your preparation. I think that helps get you those breaks. And we just played well together. We played hard. We had a lot of fun with each other, but I think just it was no offense, defense. It was all together, pulling the rope, and special teams, and we did everything we had to do to go win football games.
Seth, thank you very much. Good luck. We appreciate it. Lots of former Baylor players, coaches, and others on your staff. I know that you have to kind of muzzle. Do you sometimes just have to duct tape Phil Bennett's mouth?
That guy's full of energy. I'll tell you what, it's a blessing to have him. I'll tell you the amount of energy he has, the way he can relate to our men, it's unbelievable. And then him and Gush, and then along with that defensive staff. And you're right, we have quite a bit of Baylor guys here, but they do a great job. I think this is our best staff we've had since I've been here, and we're having a lot of fun together.
Good luck. You guys had a great run at the end. Huge win against UTSA, and thanks for your time, Seth. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Yep. Seth Latrell, head coach at North Texas Conference USA. They'll join the American Conference. There's another one, by the way, that there's that doesn't even get much attention because American had to make up for losing 3 of their teams, and that one of them will be North Texas. When we come back, we're not done today. We have a lot to get to, including a little bit later on. We have a little bit of time here to take phone calls. We haven't done that in probably too long. So what we'll do, we'll set it up. The number to call, 254-339-1122. It's the same number we use for the text line, 254-339-1122, and we'll go rapid fire with your thoughts about realignment and college football. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco, and right now the incentives available, the 2022 Wagoneer, the 2 and 3 series. They have $4,500 bonus cash and $4,500 competitive bonus cash that's going on right now, plus 2.9% financing for 72 months. That is on top of the bonus cash as well. First responders get an extra $500 of bonus cash. Then there is the 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab Lone Star. Special values up to $7,000, or get $1,500 bonus cash and 2.9% financing for 72 months. Durable, functional, stylish pickup trucks that look and feel like you're driving in one of the nicest, beautiful SUVs like a Wagoneer. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, new inventory arriving every single day, and 2.9% financing on almost every new car is on the lot. And there's a bunch of them and more to come. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543. Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. What are some of the things you have coming up?
You know, we kind of call ourselves the wedding ring store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves. Probably 9 out of 10, every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me examples that you could fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
254-339-1122, the number open right now. Here are a couple of text messages on the Rose Bowl. These came back to back within about 10 minutes. From the 213, the Rose Bowl facility is owned by the city of Pasadena. It sits on one of the most valuable and picturesque pieces of real estate in the country. The real estate value alone is worth a fortune. The Rose Bowl does not need money. It is the host and home, of course, location of UCLA. The Big Ten will make a fortune for the Rose Bowl and vice versa. Nobody needs to worry about the Rose Bowl. Also, the 810, I just wanted to say.
Don't take his. He's on the phone.
Oh, okay. Hey, good. Okay, good. 810. Good. All right, let's go.
All right, let's go to Michael in the 810. Michael, you're on Sikkim 365 Radio.
I just wanted to say I've been listening to your show since I was in Seattle. Just graduated from the University of Washington this few months ago. Went to the University of Delaware, and I'm a Navy vet, so 3 schools there that I have a diehard affinity to, but none more than Washington. And I know you guys have talked a lot about the Pac-12 and UW, Oregon. I mean, forget Oregon, but I just wanted to say that in my personal opinion, I don't think Washington or Oregon is going to leave for the Pac-12. Money-wise, I think that they're going to want to try and work something out with the Pac-12 and go to the Big Ten, so that way they can stick with the Rose Bowl. I know USC, UCLA have a long history, I think 46 appearances. I think Oregon and Washington are the next 2 up for Rose Bowl appearances and success. I think that's a lot for them to give up. And I think that was a huge reason why the Pac-12 didn't want to give up the Rose Bowl to the playoff committee as well. If I'm correct in that, the playoff committee wanted to put the Rose Bowl in a constant cycle, so the Pac-12 would no longer see that bowl any longer. And, I'm not sure what you guys think about that, but.
Well, Michael, I do think that moving forward, the Pac-12 and the Rose Bowl's relationship is going to have to change, no matter what, because the the world is moving past them, and the Rose Bowl can't really dig its heels in anymore, especially if look, USC and UCLA could wind up in the Rose Bowl anyway, based on the old things, because they're going to the Big Ten. But that's going to have to change, and I think that the rest of the college football world is kind of pushing back against them.
Do you think that there's any hope for Washington, Oregon to find space in the Big Ten? I think that the other reason why is because Washington probably won't want to let go of the Apple Cup, and Oregon won't let go of Washington as much as Washington won't let go of Oregon. I really don't think that they care too much about anything else other than maybe those few things plus, money.
I don't know. You hear so many different. First of all, thanks for the call, and also getting perspective from somebody that's an alum of UW as well. There's no question. Initially, when all this happened with USC and UCLA, it looked like, okay, when are they going to invite Washington and then Oregon? And then we start to hear things that maybe they won't. I know there's no question that the Big 12 would love to have one of those two, both of those teams in the conference. I don't think there's any question about that. I wonder if Washington may be a little bit closer to at least talking more with the Big 12 than Oregon, and Oregon now all of a sudden feels like they are on an island. That's just me in my opinion. No one has told me that. But either one of them joining the Big 12 would be fun. I would love it. I think it makes the conference better. And Washington is a big boy program, no question in my mind.
On the Rose Bowl stuff, I don't know. I've read, kind of different things about the Rose Bowl. I know how much it means to especially folks on the West Coast, and for those not on the West Coast, the Big Ten. Being here in Texas, it doesn't mean as much, just simply because it's not I guess in Texas it means a lot for Longhorns who, watched their last national title won in the Rose Bowl against a Pac team in USC, but there's not that tradition there that there is for the Big Ten and the Pac. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that. And I think the last time I looked, they have not commented, I don't believe, or at least showed any type of their hand, the Rose Bowl committee, when it comes to what's happened since USC and UCLA. I looked to see if there's been any comment of any sort made about what those defections mean, and I haven't seen anything concrete. So I think it kind of remains to be seen where exactly that fits in the puzzle piece. But that is a very interesting puzzle piece itself, the Rose Bowl. And as far as Washington, I think Washington's going to be fine. I think they're either going to end up staying in a sturdy Pac-12 of some sort, or there's probably a Big Ten invite coming, but I don't see them joining the Big 12 the way it sits right now. I think they're probably going to either get this mystery invite that was supposedly, according to realignment sources, going to be a done deal, like 3 weeks ago. Oregon and Washington were going to be heading to the Big Ten, but then it was dependent on Notre Dame, and then Stanford was involved, and that's just one of those other carousel of rumors that nothing's really come from that. But if there is a shot at the Big Ten, I think they're probably holding out hope for that. And then if there's not that, then they're holding out hope to see what the Pac and the ACC could swing together potentially. And if there's not that, then they're holding out hope just to see what the Pac's going to do. But as far as Washington going and joining anybody, I think that's the last thing on their mind is going and joining the Big 12. I think that's their, okay, we have no other option. We've got to go join the Big 12, in my opinion. But I don't know the insider. It might be what you said of they're more apt to lean to leave than Oregon is. Isn't that what you just said?
I would think that if, in fact, either one of them want to, I would think that Washington is slightly ahead of doing that, and that Oregon is still trying to, and I'm not saying Washington is ready. I'm just saying that I would think Washington's slightly ahead of that, and that Oregon, it was still kind of holding out hope, and as there may not be as much around them, then they're like, well, damn it, we have to look at this too.
Yeah, I can see that, but I think that, to your point, they're going to exhaust every option they have. Yeah. So that's, hey, let's see what the Big Ten has to offer. Let's hope Notre Dame decides something soon if that has any impact. Let's try and, put bubblegum and MacGyver this thing with the ACC, or, hey, none of that's working. Let's try and do a 10-team Pac-12, and us and Oregon are basically the OU Texas, and we get more revenue share. So I think they're going to look through all of that, and they're probably doing all of that right now. And if it comes out on the other side and none of that is feasible, then, you might have to you're forced into a decision of some sort. But I do think that those two, Washington and Oregon, are going to take every breath they can and every day that they can to figure out how to land in the best possible spot, just like anybody in their positions would, and like everybody out there is pretty much doing right now.
Yeah, I don't like. you don't know.
I wouldn't be worried about Washington, though, because they're going to be wherever they end up. They're going to be in the Big 12, or they're going to be in the Pac-12, or they're going to be in the Big 10, but they're not going to be in Conference USA. They're going to be fine.
That's the same example that I've used about, you mean to tell me that Rutgers and Northwestern and Vanderbilt, with all due respect to them, are going to be able to play in this so-called Super 2, this outside upper-level championship, and Washington's not? Or Oklahoma State Baylor a year ago wouldn't? Or even Oregon? No way. No way in hell that will ever happen. It won't happen. So.
Yeah, I don't know that that'll happen. I do think there's possibly going to be some attrition. In the year, I don't mean like anytime soon. I just mean in years from now. I wouldn't be surprised to see them, slim it down even further. But I don't think any of us really even know what the big picture looks like just yet. And we're all trying to paint it, but none of us have anything to go by except for rumors and what we think may happen or what the trendiest thing to talk about is. So who knows what the hell it looks like in the long run, but I do think Washington is going to be fine. And I think that's probably what you're most worried about. Yeah. Sorry we can't give you concrete answers, but that's what you're probably most worried about. And Washington will end up in a conference where they're fine and they are respected and they'll have, I would think, a shot at some titles.
I'm gonna always, and until the day that doesn't work out, that just because you're not a part of a conference that's grown a little bit, that means you're left out, and others who are just happen to be a part of conferences are allowed to play for the big boy title. 4:29 is the time. We'll come back. We'll go. What more call? Okay, good. A couple more calls to get to.
Diane in Grand Prairie, you're on SicEm 365 Radio.
Hi guys. You know that I am loving the drama of this realignment. This is just like crack, logging on to Twitter every day to see who says what, and it's so nice not to be worrying about having your team land in Conference USA out this time. Although, having said that, if we landed in Conference USA, I would still be a fan because I'm loving and I'm excited for the upcoming season. I attended the 365 lunch this weekend that featured Blake Shapen, and our future is in good hands. QB1 is a rock star. The kid is a quality kid. I don't know if you heard this, Smokey, but he says his worst game ever in golf was an 85.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty good. I might have had that on Sunday. I'm not sure the way I was hitting the ball. Yeah, no, he's a baseball player, quarterback. He's that it kid, right? He's got everything. And he's got it in his neck, too. And I heard that event was really, really cool.
It was great. It got me very excited. And again, I'm glad that we're sitting on the outside looking in, just hoping to reap the rewards of this realignment. But again, if we ended up in Conference USA one day with kids like Blake on the field to watch, I'm there for it regardless.
Thank you very much, Diane. We appreciate you. Day one, Diane. From day one, April 6, 2020, when we launched this podcast, and also the show, SicEm 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Chris in Missouri, you're on SicEm 365 Radio. Thanks for your call.
Hey, guys. Good to talk to you. Hey, question. Has anyone thought about the impacts that all this conference changing is having on the bowl lineups? The ACC, let's say, has a lineup set up where their champion goes to a certain bowl and the number 2 goes to a bowl. But if I was a bowl like with the Pac-12, I wouldn't want, say, an Oregon State or Washington State as a champion, since UCLA and USC are gone, and God forbid Oregon and Washington leave. Yeah, I'm just wondering what ramifications that'll have with the TVs and the bowl networks.
Well,
thanks.
I'm sure there'll be some sort of reshuffling, but right now they barely have enough teams to fill out the amount of bowls. I mean, they have to make certain things where, okay, if your grades are good, you can go at 5 and 7 some years because there's so many bowl games. So I don't think if you're worried about the traditional bowl lineup as it's been and ever expanding with, games in the Bahamas and everywhere else, I mean, eventually you're just going to take who you can get. I do think eventually that system will probably morph and change into something else if the playoff expands. But
yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think you're really asking that, though. You're asking, like, if the Pac-12 is linked into bowls, like, how does that affect, if all these conferences are changing, how does that affect your bowl affiliation? That's how I took it, at least.
Yeah, but my point is I don't think they really
They'll figure it out.
Being a point to be like, oh, we're upset about it. Okay,
each conference
we'll find somebody else to go to your bowl game.
Each conference will have tie-ins to 5, 6, 7, 8 bowls or more. And there's some conferences that before have not been able to fill the spot, and somebody else will step in.
Yeah, and I guess the Rose is what, the Big Ten and the Pac-12, so that doesn't really have to change. I mean, it'd just be weird that USC or UCLA would be representing the Big Ten in that scenario. But, yeah, I guess on paper that doesn't really have to change, even if the Big Ten's going to be shuffling lineups. Now, if the Pac-12 obviously disintegrated or did not exists anymore for some reason, although plenty of media guys are saying otherwise today, and then accusing people of being the ones that are saying it. It's very weird how all this is going on Twitter. But I guess if something were to drastically change, then that would change how the Rose Bowl is selected. But yeah, I guess I'm with these guys that that's probably not the most important thing at the moment. I think that's probably just something that gets figured out as time goes by, and you kind of figure out who's actually where first, because you can go solve it right now, but what does solving it do right now if teams are just going to leave here in a couple of weeks or in a couple of months or in a couple of years? Then what was the point?
I think the bigger question about the bowl system is, say that we do get the 12-team playoff, which every day I wake up and wonder if that's ever going to actually happen, but say we do get a 12-team playoff. And some of those are obviously going to have to be home games the first week based on the higher seed because you can't just go to neutral site 3 weeks in a row. Well, what happens to the bowl system? Does the bowl system become less valuable to everybody else because the 12-team playoff now is the dominant thing?
Some of the bowls will be a part of the playoff.
Yeah, but I mean, on the lower rung ones, like what happens is that...
Yeah, but here's my thought on that is like how do you do that though? Did you win 4 bowl games on the way to your national title? Like, did you win the Sun in the first round and you won the Peach in the second and you won the Cotton in the semis and then you won the Rose in the national title? Like, that's what doesn't make any sense to me for a variety of reasons. So, yeah, I mean, they would be a part of the semis as it already, is set up like that, but how would you do that overall? So, yeah, I mean, it depends. That's the thing. These are questions that you can't really answer right now because we don't know what it's going to look like. No. I mean, is there a Super 2? And
maybe it's not so much the bowl games as the sites that's called the Citrus Bowl or called the Cotton Bowl or whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, would you have – we won the Cotton, Sugar, Peach, and Rose all in the same year. Yeah. It's like, okay, and then a bunch of teams just didn't get to play in bowl games because you played in 4 of them. Like, that doesn't make any sense. But while that doesn't make any sense, nothing really makes sense right now because we have no idea what it's going to look like. So if there is a Super 2 that breaks off, how do they break off? What do they break off into? Are they tethered somewhat? Are they completely untethered from – whoever else is remaining, the majority of schools that are out there. Because, something's got to give, and I don't think you're going to be I don't know. There's so many questions that come with that. Like, what does their playoff look like? I mean, how many teams are invited to that playoff? What happens to teams in those 2 leagues if they don't get invited to whatever the playoff setup would be? Do they have their own, you know what I'm saying?
They're all going to, there's going to be a chart, a grid, like an Excel file. You get assigned to bowl games and stuff. You're talking about if you're the Big 12 and you don't have somebody make it to the college football playoff.
No, I'm saying if there's 2 leagues that are going off and doing their own thing and they're going to crown their national champion or whatever the Super League is going to do, are they involved in the playoff with the other conferences, or is this their own exclusive thing like people seem to think that they're moving towards?
Oh, I would think they think it's their own exclusive thing, and they'll negotiate the name of the damn title games and semifinals on their own.
So then
we're looking at so many things that may never happen.
Right, which is basically what I said is why we need more information. But if we're going to sit here and think about it for a second, if you are 2 conferences, you're the Big Ten and the SEC, you go off to do your own thing. Are you going to play a non-Super 2 or whatever conference in the Chili's Bowl? Or do you only have your teams playing in those types of games, or does the other ones play in those types of – that's what I'm saying.
You cannot play the teams in the Super 2, in my opinion, if they're playing for their own championship.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, like, if you're in the Super 2, what does their postseason look like? Okay, not everybody's making the postseason. So what teams left out? Are they playing in the San Antonio Bowl?
Whatever bowl games want to align with them.
Right. So that's the question is, what would that even look like? What would bowl games even do? What would bowl games even matter? What would, there's just way too many questions to know for sure.
The Rose Bowl has been around forever, of course. The first time I think it was a Big Ten and Pac-12, whatever it was called in 1947. I don't care what, Pac-8, whatever. From 1947 all the way until Miami's throttled Nebraska in 2002 year, the 2001 season, it was always Big Ten, Pac-12. From that time, there have been lots of hits and misses. Like TCU played Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl. You've had teams outside of the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, but they've kind of gone back to that. 2020 season, Alabama played Notre Dame in the Rose Bowl. Last year, of course, it was Ohio State. Utah, so it was back to the Big Ten, Pac-12. So they've had, like Oklahoma, Georgia, semifinal game, Rose Bowl. It's been still, for the most part, it's always about the Big Ten and the Pac-12 with a few exceptions. Oregon, Florida State in 15 was a Rose Bowl game. When we come...
I know you don't want to speculate too much, but that's also what the entire premise of realignment is all speculation. All of what we've talked about is specation. So I know that's a bit farther out.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying is that is like a bowl, like a 1,000 paper clips that you cannot keep. That it's a great question. It's a great scenario. If you are a part of the Super 2, you're going to want to align yourself to bowl games. And if those bowl games are a part of the Super 2 conference, whether it's a championship or the 5th and 6th and 7th ranked teams, those other conferences, I guess, are going to be left out of those bowl games.
Right. So if you're not a part of those two conferences, you can't play in the Rose Bowl anymore. Well, that's what's fascinating about it is you got to think about it that way is like how much cooperation would there even be going on? Who loses out entirely on parts of history because of money grabs and corporations and things like that is, if you're the Rose Bowl and all of a sudden – you've been Pac-12, Big Ten, and all of a sudden the Big Ten is joining this own separate thing with one other conference. The Pac-12's in this other thing. Is there a crossover? I wouldn't want to have crossover.
No.
So there's not that. So then all of a sudden you got bowl games that are choosing. Like that's what's fascinating.
To me, the Big Ten will take over the Rose Bowl.
Okay. And the Pac-12 just too bad.
And we read the two comments earlier about how powerful they are. But if the Pac-12 dissolves, it won't matter. But I would think that, that's to me why you're Washington and you're Stanford or whoever, you're Oregon, you want to have that connection, the possibility of playing in the Rose Bowl. But, man, there's so much. It's so convoluted, it's crazy. We got to take a break. 440, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. PettyClinicalOT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and perhaps used to be. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, energy, body fat, focus, sleep habits, and yes, sex drive. It's affected by low testosterone. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues. So, is that you? You're not sure? Maybe? What would it hurt to contact Dr. Kent Petty? Go to PettyClinicalOT.com, top left-hand corner. You'll have an email and a phone number. Contact them. Tell them I sent you. Tell them you'd like to maybe know or like to know what the process is. What Dr. Petty and his staff will do will set you up with an appointment to get your blood work. Take care of that appointment. He will then look at your results, and if your testosterone level is too low, he can put you in a program to increase it so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be at PettyClinicalOT.com. Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Sausage wrap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's summertime. There's picnics, reunions, cookouts, and so much to do. And Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco is your home for the butcher shop that can help you with beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. They are spectacular at being able to deliver you whatever cut of steak you want. Bone-in ribeye, however thick you want it, that's great. They'll do it. Sirloin, T-bone, porterhouse, bacon wrap filet. And of course, as I mentioned, they have pork, poultry, and seafood. Their Norwegian salmon is spectacular. Also, all of the sauces and seasonings you'll ever need, all the ingredients you'll ever need to make sure you have that perfect, flawless taste. So it's delicious whenever you take something off the grill. And a full-fledged bakery as well, with fresh baked bread and kolaches every single day. Up and down the aisle of Waco Custom Marketplace, you also have what you need, from knickknacks to snacks to more, at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, Waco Custom Marketplace.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, behind the bank.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Trey Wingo, Brian Etheridge sent this to me on the podcast that we put up about Jason Shear on the show. Follow the money. It's way bigger in the Big 12. And he's the one that last week put up a tweet involving the Big 12 and Pac-12 as well. Trey's no longer at ESPN, but he's very much tied in. Also has an incredibly popular podcast and does quite a bit.
What I would say, I think another reason like that people think the money is different, or it could be that different, is the Big 12 can be something new. The Pac-12 really can't, and now it can't ever be what it was. So that's where the Pac-12 has a problem, is that the Big 12 can be totally something new, adding all the things in. And yeah, look, Baylor's a small school, and TCU's small, and, you know, the state of Iowa is not big, and they only have one of the schools in there. Kansas isn't a big state, the population basis and all that. But when you add in UCF, Cincinnati, BYU, Houston, schools that are growing, schools that used to be called just commuter schools, which a lot of them have grown further beyond that. Now, those schools have grown. The Big 12 can be something. The Pac-12 cannot reinvent something to be what they were. And they can't really be something new that doesn't make them admit this is not as good as it was. So while, you know, you could add San Diego State or UNLV or something, their mission for a long time has been run in the opposite direction of schools like that. So having to admit that and do that in the search of maybe money is maybe money, not definite money. Maybe money is really hard. So that's why I think a lot of people think that the Big 12 is in a better spot than the Pac-12, because they are building something new, is where the Pac-12 can't ever be to what it was. And if it tries to build something new, based on where it is and what it's doing, it can't really be something new and exciting either.
Yeah, just be a hypocrite in so many ways. Yeah, we've heard for years the Pac-12 tout its academics and this and that. And, yeah, if they were to turn around and go add some of those West Coast schools, and they'd suddenly have to back away from those statements a little bit. Because, man, I've seen it from the Pac-12 fans, bunch of basically calling the Big 12 a bunch of redneck Central State schools. I mean, you'd think that there was just no education being had over here. You'd think that there's just like I don't know. It's just the perception is eye-opening, and the stereotype fits. So there's the elitist sort of we're better than you, and it's just I don't know, man. I just don't view people and things like that. Like if the Pac-12 was if the roles reversed and Baylor was going to the Pac-12 or Texas Tech or whoever, I'd be like, hey, great, cool, go for it or whatever. But this stomach churning that some people have over playing teams from Texas or playing in Oklahoma or Iowa or whatever, it's like, who the hell are you, man? Like, who are you? What makes you so great? You were born in Washington? Cool. Like, I mean, this air of superiority is weird, and I know it comes from all sides of it as well. I've just seen just a rash of the Pac-12 side of it on my feed here over the last few minutes. But, yeah, I mean, the Big 12's got its snobs too, and, of course, the Big 10 and the SEC do, but everybody's fighting for the same thing when all is said and done. But you're right, Paul. The Pac-12 is a West Coast conference, and that's barring a alliance with the ACC, pretty much all it's ever going to be, whereas the Big 12 already stretches from the eastern seaboard to the middle of the country and now all the way to Utah. And with a couple of additions, it could be coast to coast, just like, a couple of others are or will be. So I do think that right there, the Big 12 has an advantage. I also know that I could spend 5 minutes reading why the Pac-12 has this upper hand, and I could spend another 5 minutes reading why they're both dead, and I could spend another 5 minutes reading why, I mean, it's what you want to believe at this point, and I'm sticking to just the things that we kind of hear recurring, and that is that the Pac-12 is still trying to figure it out, and they're still trying to find a way to save themselves. And some people think it's obvious that they're in a better position, and some people, like myself, don't think it's that obvious. And I don't even know how much does Notre Dame matter in this anymore. I mean, because it's almost like you don't even bring them up, but it's like, oh yeah, that's a factor as well. So it's amazing. Realignment is a crazy beast, and it's turned into a little civil war with Pac-12 and Big 12 fans, and the SEC and Big 10 fans are just pointing and laughing because they created it all. They created the entire thing with Oklahoma and Texas and with USC and UCLA. They got what they wanted, and now they're just laughing at the other two, the infighting going on.
And they feel like nobody will ever blank with who they have in their territory.
Yeah, absolutely.
From Matt in the 801, love the BYU helmet. I could see multiple Sugar Bowls and Rose Bowls within a 12-team playoff. I could see 2 games being played in the Rose Bowl 1 year. 2 games at SoFi, 2 games in Arlington. I can see that, but I can't see both of them being called the Rose Bowl and also the Sugar Bowl. Also, here's another one from the 213. Online gambling is the most powerful TV driver that college football has ever had. It does not matter what time slot you have if 21 to 54-year-olds are waging on your games. And if you own the time slot without other conference interference, that plays into your hands as an advantage. Online gambling is a major part of the Pac-12 TV rights, and their sole ownership of the Pacific time slot plays right into their hands. Gamblers will watch no matter what time. If you have $150 on Washington Stanford at 10:30 Eastern time, I'm watching it. It takes all night, half the day tomorrow. DraftKings FanDuel will drive the Pac-12 bus.
Yeah, look, it's in gambling. Now that it's about to be legal, in all 50 states eventually, some sooner than others, but the dirty little having to whisper about betting on a game is going to go away. You already see, odds throwing up their whole television networks dedicated to sports gambling and all that. So, yeah, I mean, that's very true. It's going to drive it. And why do you think that maybe some of the other conferences want to expand over there?
Yeah, I was going to say, well, if the pie is that great, then why aren't others ponying up to the table then? And
I mean, the Big Ten is, right? Because they
are. I mean, they are because they're adding 2 LA schools. So, yeah, I mean, your point's valid, but I would say then, okay, even more reason for the Big 12 to try and go out there and get some of that betting money, not the opposite, which I think is what you're saying is the opposite of the Pac-12 has ownership of it. Well, what's to stop somebody else from just saying, screw this, we'll put a game on at 9:32 and put it on Watch ESPN or whatever, and I mean, I don't know. That seems pretty simple.
I cannot imagine, even with that. It's from a guy that's always pretty damn smart. But the Big 12, because of that, is not going to start playing games at 9:30 Central, are they?
That's what I'm saying. Is if it was like the way he alludes to it, if it was that big of a deal, like that's basically holding the Pac-12 together. Is the bettors window late at night on Saturdays? If that's basically keeping the conference alive, because we've seen that window used over. It's the one thing I've seen that makes the most sense is that window, and that doesn't even make a whole lot of sense because it's not exclusive really. Like it doesn't have to be exclusive for them. Then, yeah, I would think that others would get big dollar signs in their eyes and go and try to take as much of a chomp out of that as they can.
Well, I mean, if you were Rutgers, why would you not agree to a West Coast game, or the Big Ten? Why would you not tell some of your teams to go play some West Coast games against even USC and UCLA schools and at 9:30 so you could get a piece of that pie too, So
yeah, no. So I think it's valuable real estate. I just don't know how exclusive it really has to be and how much it's bringing in if others aren't looking to go chomp a bit off of it. I hope that makes sense. But if it's that lucrative, there's money to be found, then the Sharks are going to start swimming, I would think. And so then that makes it a little less exclusive and not nearly as prime real estate as it appears to be right now. And if I'm missing something there, then correct me.
Well, here's a response from Joel. You might want to connect the last caller with Gamblers Anonymous. If you're on the East Coast and you're watching Washington State versus UNLV, you've got a problem. Well, it's not so much it's Washington State, UNLV. If you're someone who gambles, it doesn't matter who's playing.
Yeah, there's that.
It's who you can win. It's the money you can win, if you start well, then you keep betting more because you're on a hot streak, and if you lose early, then you got to double down. It's a dangerous part of the life, and everybody, it seems like it's more now available than ever before. Paul?
All right, let's go to Russell in San Antonio. Russell, thanks for your call.
Hey, yeah, actually, it's an interesting conversation you guys are having. I think that ESPN contract actually speaks a lot to what they value out there on the West Coast. I think the reason that the money came in so low is nobody wants an entire conference of West Coast games. They might want one or two for the inventory, which is also why I think the Big Ten only took 2 teams, because they're only going to have 1, maybe 2 games on the Pacific time zone. So that's why I think if the Big 12 is talking about expanding, we better not overload out on the West. We could take a couple of mountain teams, a couple on the Pacific coast, but I think if we take too many, we're going to probably be a little less valuable to a media partner, because right now we'd be East Coast, Central Time Zone is the sweet spot. A little bit in the mountain and a little bit in the Pacific, they could be airing football games all day long and be happy. But I think that's the problem with the Pac really in the future, too, is if they try to expand by grabbing Mountain West teams, they're just doubling down on the problem, not solving it. So, yeah, I think this whole deal that ESPN did is just evidence that Pacific time zone is kind of a dead deal.
Thank you, man. Appreciate. Where are you calling from?
San Antonio.
Actually, I'm in the hill country just north of San Antonio there.
Oh, my Lord.
This is Shooter TX, by the way. So.
Beautiful play. Hey, thanks for the call.
Shooter TX. I just saw it in the notes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What's up, Shooter?
Sorry. Yeah. I called him.
Oh, Shooter TX from the text line. Okay, yeah.
I called him by his Christian name, not his nickname. So.
No, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, though. I mean, it does. If you were to go add San Diego State and UNLV and whatever else kind of scenario people have come up with for the Pac-12's, ultimate next chapter, I mean, you have games at 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. I mean, where are you going to put all those games? Because I know for me, Pac-12 After Dark's a game. And it's like usually Washington State and Oregon State or something like that. And I'm watching it depending on how, good it is. But, as much as I love college football, if it's like 45-13 at 11:45 at night, I mean, at that point, I really don't give a damn. But
if your top 2 teams, say 1 year, would be Washington and USC in the classic days of the Pac-12. So let's just say that's now. So USC and Washington or USC and Oregon wind up being the best 2 teams in the league. It's November 10th and they're playing. Are you going to put that game at 9:30 at night? No, that's going to be your highest rated game. You don't want to risk it. So even then, you're not going to get the 1 and 2 teams in the Pac-12 unless it's just dumb, stupid luck.
All right, we got one more call, Paul.
Yeah.
Let's take one more call. We appreciate all of your feedback today. We do have a guest, Ian Furness from KJR in Seattle, a little bit after 5 o'clock. And then David Hellman reports from Oxnard, California today as the Cowboys and NFL teams, of course, all starting. Some already have opening up their training camps.
Joshua Tucker in Elk City, Oklahoma. Thanks for your call.
Yes, sir. I'm actually in College Station.
Okay.
I'm on recruiting duty.
Okay. Go ahead, Josh.
Yes, sir. I made a comment through the text line a few weeks ago about TCU being ahead of Texas Tech. As you can tell, I'm a huge Red Raider fan. Wreck 'em. But I am kind of curious how some of these teams are getting a little love when they've lost a lot more than Texas Tech or other universities. Kind of want your thoughts on it, and then what their chances are of having a chance to be in the top 3, top 4 of the new Big 12.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate it, and thank you for the recruiting mission.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, and I wanted to actually follow up and ask you for clarity there, but I guess you're talking about in the Big 12 race?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I'm the one pounding the drum for why is it so quiet around Texas Tech? And the answer basically I get back is because as good as they might be or better than expected as they might be, because they're definitely not like first-year changeover, the whole roster's brand new. There was a scandal recently. They've struggled in football. Like all of these things that normally all of these things that normally precede a coaching change, none of that is true. Like none of it. They made a bowl game last year. They have a ton of players coming back. The spirit in the air is the best it's been in like a decade. So, I mean, really the only thing standing in front of them is just simply the other teams in the Big 12. I mean, I just think it's that. I think it's that just people feel like Oklahoma will be better. They think Baylor will be better. They think Texas will be better. They think a lot of teams just will be better. But I don't think that necessarily is that Texas Tech won't be any good. I just don't think anybody's ready to put them with sight unseen, no matter how stable it might be now with Joey McGuire. I mean, we still need to see him coach. You know, we haven't seen him coach since he was at Cedar Hill, and that was 5 years ago now at this point. And he's never coached in college football, much less in, a Power 5. So there will be a little bit of a learning curve there, I would think. But I'm high on them. I don't think they're going to be, nearly as bad as somebody that's normally introducing a first-year coach is expected to be because of why they're introducing a first-year coach. I think Texas Tech just went and grabbed the bull by the horns and made a big move while they could, even though they had just made a bowl game and won a bowl game. That happened after McGuire's hire. But you know what I'm saying. Like, the team wasn't terrible is the point.
They were blah.
They're just kind of there. Now they've got some energy and an actual identity about them, and I think they'll be good over the next few years. I just think that for this year in particular, there's some others that are just expected to be better.
That first 6 weeks, or the second 5 weeks, but they start with Murray State, and then they've got Houston, NC State, Texas, Kansas State, and Oklahoma State all before the bye. That's going to tell us a lot about where they are.
Yep.
That's really tough. I mean, there's not a gimme, in those 5 games right there.
A Houston game will be really interesting.
Yeah.
The NC State one, too, will be interesting. But, I mean, it's kind of how they get out of that. If they can go 2-1 or 3-0, then, man, they get the hype machine ready for that, because then they'll be entering Big 12 play and already, halfway to potential bowl eligibility, and it'll be a matter of who do they beat there. Okay, Kansas, and then who else do they beat there? And so, yeah, it's all going to – I think that first month.
If they beat Houston and NC State, they're going to beat a handful of others in the Big 12. Yeah.
Probably, yeah. So, I just think it's other teams are expected to be better, and there's a little bit unknown about Tech, but I don't think it's disrespectful. I think people are just kind of waiting and seeing.
All right,
it's a fun schedule, though.
No, it is.
That's a super fun schedule, or stressful, depending on your perspective on it.
Well, and the great thing is the way it's set up is they could go like 0-12, and people are going to be like, "Well, it's first year with Joe." That's what I'm saying about the whole Mulligan thing is they're going to have that regardless. But I would think you definitely expect, a bowl game. If they're not even close to that, that would be a disappointment. I don't care if it's a first year head coach or not, because they've got more than enough coming back.
Steve from Frog Fan here, what Paul says, it feels like the Big 12 can be something new, especially with new commish thinking new things. It feels like we have good options. We cannot get to everybody that has texted us in, but my God, we appreciate all of you. We really, really do. It's 5:02. When we come back, we're going to drop in with Ian Furness from KJR. He is in Seattle, also does TV up there as well, and a lot to get to as well. We hope you've enjoyed so far the first couple of hours and more to come. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace. I have not seen yet their specials for this week. But let me tell you, I had a bone-in ribeye. Cooked it on the grill Saturday evening. It was absolutely delicious. I had a really good fire on the grill, like a really good fire to scar my ribeye on both sides and then kind of like put it up on the second rack of my of the electric grill I have, and just it was perfect. And a couple of corn on the cob. Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store, and if you love to have your product custom cut, like for example, I love a bone-in ribeye that's at least 1.25 inches thick, maybe 1.5 inches. Bone-in ribeye, porterhouse, T-bone. You want it, they have it. Bacon wrapped fillets that are this thick with bacon wrapped around them. It's just delicious, and they will customize your order. You want this, this, and this, call in, go pick it up whenever they say it's ready. And the same thing, by the way, with their bakery, with fresh baked bread and kolaches every single day, or whatever desserts and sweets you want. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
The secret to living your best life is pizza, obviously. Golden crust made from scratch, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and the toppings, crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, bacon. That's called a dream team. Find everything you need to live your best life and more at Marco's Pizza. Owner Bob Mock has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. This is a great time for your business.
Exactly. And one other thing we do that a lot of people don't know is we buy jewelry, heirloom pieces, gold, silver bars, gold bullion, watches, anything you may have that you want to. If you don't want to use it and remake something like I did in a state yesterday and I looked at 35 pieces, well, they're probably going to sell me back 30 because it's something they're not going to wear, nothing to use. So if you're looking to get a few bucks or to sell something or something you just don't wear anymore, I make my wife go through her jewelry box about every 6 to 8 months, and the things that she doesn't wear on a daily basis, this sounds horrible, but I take away from her and then I'll put in my estate counter, but then that gives me the chance to rebuy her something new moving forward. Instead of looking down 20 years down the road and you have 300 pieces of jewelry, it's something to refresh and make her buy something new along the way.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
And interesting fake, and it's a touchdown to Ben Sims. Just love the poise of this young quarterback.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
He's a part of KJR, also Fox TV in Seattle, and he on Friday night put together an extravagant fundraiser, and his name, Ian Furness, joins us, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Ian, I saw the picture you pinned at the top of your feed. How did everything go with you on Friday?
It was great. Thanks for asking, guys. Yeah, we do a charity. I do a charity golf tournament every year. We didn't do it a couple of years ago with the pandemic, and had some changes last year, but back to original spot, and it benefits a lot of cool things, including Helinski's Hope, which helps student athletes with their mental health. But I got a question for you guys. You're not related to Justin Smoak, are you? Because if that's the case, I'm going to feel like you're sitting there pouting the whole time. So I'm driving by T-Mobile Park right now, where that dude sat there every time he hit a fly ball, the warning track, he'd sit there and throw a temper tantrum. So I hope you guys aren't related.
We are in a lot of different long lineage ways. Yes, he's from South Carolina. That's where he played. But no, not regular blood. But he does have one great last name.
He does. I'll give you that. It's the last name of a guy that should be able to hit the ball over the fence, not just to the fence. But yes, absolutely. So,
wow.
Look,
I love this guy already just because he's brutally honest about it.
14-game winning streak, though. And still, all that.
Ian, is it true you're pissed off about this USC-UCLA story?
Well, those two. Well, UCLA is a joke. I mean, let's be honest. They're just riding the coattails of USC, so good for them, right? They get to go to the Big Ten and, make some more money. I'm sure their cross-country team's going to love running at Rutgers after flying across the country. But, the way USC handled it, guys, was just greasy. Now, I don't know. I mean, you're in Texas. I don't know how the Texas-Oklahoma stuff went down with the SEC, if there was a little bit of greasy factor there too. But, the way it went down with this conference, the Pac-12, Pac-12's always kind of held itself to this higher calling, I guess, so to speak, right? I mean, it's every school is a research institution of the highest level. Even the land-grant schools are involved, and, they're kind of snooty. They look down. Well, we can't have BYU in our conference because they're not a research institution. Oh, Boise State doesn't meet the academic requirements. I mean, shut up. And so they do that all those years. And USC was always at the top of the list, thinking that they're basically Stanford of Southern California, right? And then all of a sudden they kind of wink, and boom, they blow out of town in the middle of the night because they're mad about revenue sharing in the conference. So it just wasn't done right. But that's the way college sports are right now. Real quick, I went to Washington State. I think what college football should be about is not about 4 teams from, 2 every year from the SEC playing in a mythical championship, 2-game playoff. I think college football is about getting upsets. It's about tailgating. It's about geographical rivalries and traditional rivalries. That's what I think college football is about, and frankly, college sports. And it's unfortunate that it's all going away.
Amen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ian,
agree.
was it greasy? We were at media days, and everybody was hugging and singing "Kumbaya." And then one day we get in the studio, ready to go on the air, and then all of a sudden Texas and Oklahoma are leaving under cloak of darkness almost, and only because A&M was so mad about it that they had to tell the world. Did all of us even know when we found out? So yeah, it all is that's kind of the difference I think between this round of realignment and the last couple is that building up to the last couple, there were at least years of people complaining about things where you thought it might happen, as opposed to now where it's just like, what the hell? You're gone now? Okay, I guess that's how it's going to go. Would have liked to know, so that makes it even worse.
I never thought that the LA schools would leave, because here's the thing, in this conference, especially USC, first of all, USC, if you guys would have done your part the last few years and been USC as opposed to being basically Arizona or Cal, you would have been, the conference would be in better shape than it was. But Clay Helton was your coach. You were awful. You went through like 15 athletic directors and everything else as Pete Carroll's been there. So, that's part of the blame there. But yeah, I think it's just odd. It'd be interesting. Just keep an eye on it this week. The Pac-12 Media Day is Friday in Los Angeles, in Southern California. I believe there's there, unless it's Vegas. Anyway, it's this Friday. Be interesting to see what the commissioner, George Kliavkoff, says, how he handles it. I think they've got to go on the offense. San Diego State has to be added to the conference after school. There's a lot of talk about SMU being added to the conference, so we'll see what happens.
Ian, as a Washington State guy, as you mentioned, I mean, when you saw that news, I mean, there's certain fan bases like Oregon and Washington who say, all right, let's pivot to the Big Ten. Let's, commandeer and get unequal revenue sharing in the Pac, and they've got options. But Wazoo is one of those that you feel like, they're in trouble. Was that kind of your immediate sense, and what has been kind of the thoughts about what's going on amongst the Cougar fan base?
I lost you there for a second. You guys back with me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, go ahead, Craig, re-ask it.
All right, Ian, you're a Wazoo guy, as you mentioned. When the announcement came out, there were some fan bases, like in Oregon, for example, they could say, all right, well, we'll just pivot to the Big Ten, or we'll be commandeering the new Pac-12 and get unequal revenue sharing. And there's schools that are going to be fine when it's all said and done. Wazoo is much more of a wild card. What's kind of the feeling there right now, and how much does the Pac-12 need to stick together for Wazoo fans to feel like they're going to have a place at the table when all the dust settles?
Well, Wazoo and Oregon State are the two schools that kind of everyone talks about being in trouble, right? Like, it's what's going to happen with them. Are they going to end up in the Mountain West or FCS level, which they're not going to end up in FCS level, but are they going to end up in the Mountain West? And I'll just give you a little background. I'm from up here, but I've moved just for a different job in hockey, but I was down in Salt Lake City working there when the Mountain West Conference was formed, when the old WAC broke up, and they had the breakaway 8. So I've seen this before. It's always interesting to see all the strange bedfellows that kind of come about realignment. First of all, Oklahoma, Texas. Now we're in bed together, really, like you two. Yeah. USC and UCLA. Oregon and Washington reportedly joined at the hip, although I tend to disagree. I think in this conference, the hard part is, the football brands, and let's just take a step back. The television numbers are what we look at, right? That's kind of what the be-all, the end-all is sometimes now, depending on who you talk to. Well, like Washington State has the Seattle market. Most of the alums at Washington State, the Cougs, live in Seattle. That's the media market number 12. It's basically split Washington and Washington State. The schools I think that are really in trouble, football brand-wise, are Cal and Arizona. Arizona's got the great basketball brand now, so maybe that kind of outweighs it. Cal is in trouble. Cal and Stanford have like 28 total sports, all those non-revenue sports. Football carries the weight. Wazoo and Oregon State are at the minimum number of D1 sports, like 17, I believe it is, for each school. So they're not carrying as much dead weight around their athletic department. So I still think, though, I think the Pac-12 needs to add 2 teams. There's a lot of talk about this real alliance, some sort of revenue alliance with ESPN kind of at the forefront with the ACC. Maybe you have a championship game at the end of the year between the two conferences. That's where the money is made anyway. I think that's the most likely scenario. I don't see a Big 12 merger. The Big 12 markets, television-wise, just don't cut it now that Oklahoma and Texas are left. So that's kind of what I think might end up happening, and seems to be a general consensus. The people I talk to involved in the athletic departments in this area kind of feel the same way. It's the Pac-12, despite losing the LA schools, may still be working from a position of strength just because of the television market size and that coveted West Coast time slot, guys. People still want college football on a Saturday night, the 6, 7, 7:30, even 8 o'clock Pacific time starts. Those are still a value to television networks.
Ian, there is a chance the Pac-12 could have done something different to avoid this. Who knows? Just like the Big 12 could have done something a few years ago to avoid where they were last year and a couple of different times. Do you feel like the Pac-12 made a mistake when they did not invite Brigham Young to join them?
Yeah, but I'm really in the minority of that, and it's funny because when I worked in Salt Lake, I mean, I'm a Catholic, I'm a beer drinking idiot Catholic kid from Seattle that's, about the furthest thing from a BYU fan. In fact, I think to this day, if you go on a BYU message board, my life might be being threatened on a weekly basis. They hated me down there, but I don't know why, but I think they did. I think they really did. I think they dropped the ball. I think screw Colorado, man. I never understood Colorado. I know it's in the Denver market, but Colorado to me has always been a Big 12 school. Should have been a Big 12 school. And when they invited Colorado and not BYU, and they used the whole research institution and all that kind of stuff in there, you're inviting them to an athletic conference. You're not inviting them to take an SAT test for it. I don't get that. I never quite understood that. And to have to split up Utah and BYU, I know it's the same television market, but it's not as well. BYU is a true national brand, and I think that's important. And I think even more so a national brand than, say, Notre Dame. Every Mormon loves BYU. It doesn't matter where you live. And, like I said, you can go anywhere you go. I traveled with that BYU team and covered them for a few years. Everywhere you went, there was thousands and thousands of people from the Latter-day Saints church in the stands. They're a national brand, and they bring national TV, national numbers. I think the Pac-12 did drop the ball. Now, again, I'm in the minority. Not everybody agrees with that, but I think if they would have kept at BYU instead of Colorado, I think that would have helped this.
Yeah, there's kind of a sense in this part of the country that the Cals and Stanfords don't want to work with religious schools or faith-based schools. How true is that as far as what they would be willing to do, especially adding schools on down the line if the Pac-12 went to that?
Well, here's the difference. So it depends on the school. First of all, this damn conference has had to work around Stanford's alliance with Notre Dame for years, because Notre Dame and USC play Notre Dame play Stanford and USC every single year in college football. And so because of that, you have rivalry games that have to be rescheduled throughout the conference to make things work, because Stanford and USC insist on having to play Notre Dame every year, and they can't ever play them at the start of the year back to back. They always play them throughout the year. So Notre Dame does work with a faith-based school, or Stanford does work with a faith-based school. I think in the case of, depends on the school, and I'm not as familiar with, say, a Baptist or a Methodist school, what have you, but BYU, one of the challenges with BYU is there's no Sunday play. We see that when they're in the NCAA tournament. They can't play on Sunday. So, they, like, for example, you're in the tournament, they'll be in the Thursday, Saturday bracket always, right? And they'll never play on a Sunday. It's problematic if the women ever get to the women's Final Four when they were on Sundays, types of things. But that was something I think the Pac-12 was not, or the Pac-10 at the time was not really excited about doing, is, rescheduling stuff. Women's soccer, men's soccer, baseball, so many sports are played on Sunday in our conference, at least. So I think that was the bigger issue, which is Sunday play as opposed to maybe a faith-based school.
Ian, you mentioned on the Washington-Oregon side of things not being so sure about kind of, I guess, that partnership, if you will. What did you mean by that?
Well, first of all, I think part of it is this. And again, I mean, all of us, whether it's me or John Wilner or whoever is out there, at Spock, none of us know, because if any of us knew really what was going on, we would have saw USC and UCLA leaving, right?
Sure, yeah.
Let's preface it with that. But the Oregon-Washington partnership, I don't know what it's like. Well, I mean, you guys are in football crazy world, but they don't like each other. The institutions don't like each other. This is not, Washington and Washington State work together on a variety of things in research. Oregon State the same in state. There's legislative. There's budgets with the legislature, things like that. That's not the case with Oregon and Washington. I mean, it's a very acrimonious, contentious at times relationship. I look at the Big Ten as this. Oregon has, we'll go back to the brand, right? Because that's probably what it comes down to more than anything. We're looking at realignment and super conferences. You guys would probably agree. I mean, I would ask you, I'd throw it back at you. If I say, Pac-12 without USC, and I say Pac-12 football, what's the first thing that comes to mind? It's probably Oregon, right?
Yep.
I mean, whether it's goofy uniforms or not, it's the Ducks. They have built up a national brand. Washington thinks it's still 1991. Don James is the coach, and they're winning a national championship, sharing it, by the way, with Miami. That's Washington fans still literally think it's 91. Probably like Cowboy fans still think they're something special, right? That's how it works. And they live in the past. And I just think that with Washington, there's Washington fans up here. They're still like, what the hell? How do we not get invited to the Big Ten? Well, because probably USC doesn't want you in the Big Ten. And if I'm USC, I sure as hell don't want Oregon in the Big Ten, because if right now USC and UCLA have the market cornered as far as big time college football and the biggest recruiting base, which is the LA area, Southern California as a whole. Why would I want to compete with Oregon, in the same conference if I don't have to? So that's kind of how I look at it. I really think that's the case. I think that, I think Oregon and Washington, if they're being honest with themselves, they're probably better suited with some sort of enhanced Pac-12, some sort of ESPN broker deal with the ACC, and moving on. Now, when the college football playoff gets restructured in, 4 years from now, then maybe all bets are off again. But for the next 3 or 4 years, I think that's probably your best bet.
One more thing, Ian, if you don't mind, on Oregon and Washington. If those two, if they do look at the Big 12, if there is any interest between the two, who do you think would have the most interest? Washington and again, things have got to be set up, and everyone has to see what the new money's going to look like and all. But if of those two, if both of them were talking to the Big 12, which of them do you feel is more likely to want to join the Big 12 if that scenario ever gets to that point?
I would think Oregon, but I think they would both. I think it would be equal, because neither one of those two schools wants to be perceived as lesser than the other. And so I think, like, if you're Washington, you would hate to see Oregon go to the Big 12. You're left behind in a watered-down Pac-10. Even though you might think you're the kingpin out here, that would be a shot to the ego. I think their bigger fear at Washington would be Oregon and Notre Dame going to the Big 10 and Washington left behind. The other part of it, too, guys, I don't know how much you've talked about it with, Texas is a lot closer and Oklahoma a lot closer than, that we're talking with the, LA schools going to the Big 10 geography-wise. But I cannot for the life of me fathom how we're talking about, all the non-revenue sports that sometimes run, have matches multiple times a week, flying across the country thousands of miles. To me, that makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, Oregon playing in the Big 10 or Big 12, traveling to where? I mean, Ames, Iowa, or wherever. You guys are Baylor, right?
Waco,
right? Yep. So I mean, it's like I don't. Yeah, like I just don't. How do you? We're sending our tennis team there? Like what? How does that make sense? So I don't care how much revenue you're getting. I travel for a living. In the fall, I travel with the Seahawks every week. You fly commercial that many times, it's going to wear on you, man. It's just not good, not healthy. I know we want to throw out the term student athlete and say it doesn't exist anymore. I don't know. Last I checked, most of those kids, especially in the non-revenue sports, are still going to class. That's a hard thing to ask for them to do.
Preaching to the choir, man, on that point. Yeah.
Ian, thank you, man. Everything's off the table. You take nothing for granted anymore. Appreciate a lot of what you said. We'll see what happens, and maybe have you on once the dust settles. Appreciate your time. That's Ian Furness.
Anytime, fellas. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
And also, thoughts and prayers to Dave, to Softy as well, as his father is struggling a little bit right now. That's Ian Furness, KJR Radio, Fox 13 in Seattle.
Yeah, can you imagine being a softball, volleyball coach right now? Like, even thinking about what the future might look like if you're, sitting there planning on just trips to Austin or College Station for a non-conference game, or Huntsville for a midweek tilt. You can still have all those, but man, this weekend you're also going to Pullman, Washington.
Yeah.
A bajillion hours away, and a car ride from the airport. I mean, it's going to be a lot.
You would almost think the non-revenue sports, and women's basketball is a non-revenue sport, but it's still. They travel pretty well. At least most of them do. Can you imagine them? They have to almost set up a schedule. Let's say that Washington and Oregon are involved in the Big 12, or whoever. You're going to almost have to have a road trip. You're going to almost have to have them playing.
A 2-for-1.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like
play both Washington schools over the course of a week or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll tell you this. So you mentioned Pullman, Washington.
I got some news though.
One of my college roommates, a very close friend of mine, lives in Moscow, Idaho, right across the border. They share, essentially right there, and teaches at the University of Idaho. He's a professor there. I've not gone up to visit him, despite several different come up and go fishing with me, because it's such a pain in the ass to get there.
Oh, you would be so worth it, man. I'm telling you, that's just gorgeous country. Now, one of those who's pretty tied into a lot of things when it comes to what's going on with different schools, boards, whatever. Apparently, Arizona, and I'm going to text Jason Shear on this, and I'm sure that this source has done that, has called a Board of Regents meeting for July 27th. That's Wednesday. Now, that could be about anything. It could be about on-campus construction. It could be about many things. It could be about academics, for God's sakes. They still do that in college, thank God. But that's interesting that we've heard about Colorado having a handful of meetings, and now Arizona is now called a Board of Regents meeting for Wednesday, July 27th.
Yeah, I just hope it doesn't get to the point where, every time a school makes a move, it's not realignment related, but, with these, I know that the person that's probably sending that to you is aware of that type of a thing, because you do see some that's like any twitch is like, oh my God. But yeah, I mean, we've heard a lot of the meetings talk. Jason Shear's talked a bit about that, and if that's something that has to do with realignment, which it very well could, and I see no reason why, that wouldn't be passed along under that thought. That would be very interesting if they got something coming up. There was some thought, I guess, at the end of last week that there could be something bubbling, but there's also the thought that there could be something, or it could be cooled off for a while, at least in front of the scenes, not so much behind the scenes. But, man, it does feel like, just for everybody's sanity, something's going to have to give sooner rather than later for Pac-12 fans and Big 12 fans especially.
We do appreciate those of you who have joined us. We had new names and on the chat and also text. Let me read this when we break. Come back with David Hellman from California. Whatever happens, this entire conference realignment, I personally care more about the prestige of the conference and its strength of schedule over revenue from a Big 12 perspective. Big 12 can get Utah, maybe say it's Oregon, but only make $30 million a school. I'd take that over some of the other schools being tossed around, and we make $33 million a school. The reputation and the strength of the schedules is what's going to be the determining factor. Sick of Big 12 having to defend itself, and they really have for a long, long time. It's just not now. And again, the Pac-12 is kind of getting a little bit of that blowback themselves. All right, when we come back, David Hellman, Cowboys have arrived, unloaded the buses. They're in California. Training camp begins, and David Hellman will join us, DallasCowboys.com.
Make this a summer sales event is happening now at Allen Samuels on the new 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab Lone Star. With special values up to $7,000 or get $1,500 bonus cash and 2.9% for 72 months. Ram trucks are designed to be durable, functional, and stylish. This legendary award-winning truck gives you that first-class feel. Allen Samuels in Waco, the place to shop for Ram trucks. First responders get $500 extra cash.
Come by. Let's be friends.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
First and goal. He's found 5 different targets. He's going to hand it off. It's Pollard, and he's across for the Dallas touchdown.
It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of FoxSports.com.
Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. The Cowboys have arrived. Training camp, of course, about to begin in Oxnard, just a little bit north of L.A.
David Hellman joins us 32 degrees cooler there, I believe, than it is right here, right now. David, first day in Oxnard, I know you guys got to talk to Zach Martin, and he's refreshingly kind of acknowledged that, yes, penalties were a problem, and they don't want to do that anymore. Is that one of the key focuses early on in camp, is getting that stuff straight?
I mean, I hope so for their sake, because it was definitely a problem last year. I thought that was interesting. Zach was talking about being a more disciplined, tougher football team, which I completely agree. Those were both issues for this group. So, I think Zach Martin is kind of the picture-perfect guy to give an opening statement when the team arrives. He's the elder statesman. He's one of the most media-savvy guys. So very, very on-brand messaging from Zach just a little while ago.
Who's better in their career, Zach Martin or Tyron Smith?
Shoot. I mean, I think you got to give the edge to Zach probably. Just mainly injuries. I mean, Tyron has missed so much time over the last 5 or 6 years. And I mean, I think the only time Zach Martin has not been named an All-Pro in his entire career is the year where in 2020 when he missed half the season due to injury. So I give it to Zach, but not by a wide margin. I mean, when he's completely healthy, I think Tyron Smith is about as good as it gets at left tackle. So it's a good problem to have, choosing between them, I guess.
How do you see the wide receiver competition past CeeDee Lamb and Jalen Tolbert shaking out?
I mean, that's very high on my list of things to figure out, Paul, just because, really, I don't even know what you can say for Jalen Tolbert right now. I mean, no disrespect to him, but he's a rookie. He hasn't done anything. He missed a lot of OTAs with a hamstring injury. So even putting a ton of pressure on him to come in right away feels a little bit unfair. So you've got CD. Don't anticipate Michael Gallup to be ready in the near future. And then, Jalen Tolbert, James Washington, Simi Fehoko. There's not a lot in the way of proven commodity behind CeeDee Lamb, at least until Michael Gallup comes back. So it looks awfully thin to me, to be honest with you. And, I mean, you know how training camp goes. There's going to be hamstring tweaks. There's going to be guys getting rest days. So this is a big opportunity for some down the depth chart guys to step up. Or, check in a few weeks. Maybe they'll be singing a different tune about whether or not they need receiver help. Who knows?
It's early on in camp, and there's always some guys that have not yet been signed by by anybody. And so they're free agents, have a pretty good name to them. What is the latest or what you hear about the interest in Anthony Barr?
Keep in mind, they don't start practicing till Wednesday, and the pads don't even come on. Honestly, this feels like a large gap before the pads come on. The pads aren't on until Monday, so literally a week from now will be the first time that we see a real football practice, which is kind of wild. But so really, I think every team in the league seems like they're in this mode right now of, yeah, maybe we'll look at that, but we're good right now. Like, we want to actually evaluate what we have, see what's going on. So I don't get the impression anything is imminent with Anthony Barr or any other veteran that they've been linked to. But 2 weeks of practice can change that tune in a hurry, whether it's because you don't like what you see from the guys you have or an injury happens. So I'm not ready to rule that type of stuff out, but I don't think it's imminent right now.
It does feel to me that, David, it's true. They really value their own picks, their own talent, and even in that situation, they have to be pretty desperate to go make a move because they really like to push and see what they have from their own picks, for better or worse sometimes.
Oh yeah, they're very high on their scouting ability, and to be fair to them, it's probably what they do best. I mean, their track record the last 9 or 10 years really speaks for itself. So yeah, and I mean, the size of these draft class in recent years, they drafted 11 guys in 2021, all of whom are still here, and then they drafted another 9 this year. So that's, 20 guys out of the 90 that are here just joined the team within the last 15 months. And they have high hopes for those guys. We haven't seen, obviously you got your Micah Parsons. We know what he is, but the vast majority of those 20 guys have not had an opportunity to really show their stuff yet. And that's what they're banking on. And how well some of those guys put their foot forward will probably determine whether or not they think that they need to add any juice to the roster.
It's obvious if I name Dak Prescott, Micah Parsons, Diggs, there's guys I could say, what if they go down? And I don't even like talking about that because I don't want to have any of them go down. Is there somebody outside of someone I mentioned, obviously Zach Martin, is there someone they cannot lose? They cannot, absolutely, no matter what, they cannot lose other than the obvious.
Yeah, QB is always going to be obvious. There are a few spots like that. Again, receiver, they already don't have Gallup, and he'll be back eventually, but we don't 100% know when that is just yet. I think it's very likely, if not probable, that he misses at least some regular season time. So you're already down there. Now, if they were to lose CeeDee Lamb, the receiver core would just be up the creek without a paddle. And then, I think this team is perilously thin at offensive tackle. We just talked about Tyron Smith. He's missed at least 3 games 6 years running. So you probably are going to have to deal with that. History suggests Terrence Steele is fine, but I don't think he has proven himself as just a rock-solid commodity. And then you got a bunch of young guys like Tyler Smith and a couple other draft picks from the last couple years who you're really leaning on to pull a lot of weight there. And so that is not a position where I think the Cowboys can afford to deal with a whole lot of bad luck injury-wise. So, receiver and offensive tackle definitely come to mind.
Do you get the feeling that Mike McCarthy is on the hot seat, or is that a wishful thinking from the fans?
Oh, I absolutely think. I'm sure Jerry Jones would say no, but everything is sunshine and roses before you've even had a training camp practice. But yeah, it's year 3. Year 3 is typically seen as the make it or break it year for a football coach. Jerry Jones was about as frustrated as I've ever seen him by the way that last season ended. And then for better or for worse, do I think Sean Payton is going to be the coach of this team in the near future? I really don't. But that doesn't matter. The narrative is out there anyway. Like, then, he's retired. He's not coaching another team. His name is going to be in the news cycle every single time there's coaching drama, and specifically with the Cowboys, where he has coached before and where he has lived for a long time. So, like, that's just out there as a distraction anyway, regardless of how valid or not it is. And so, yeah, I mean, if Mike McCarthy doesn't get this team to a place where, like, definitively better than last season, not saying they have to win the Super Bowl, but, like, missing the playoffs after the frustration of last year, not going to cut it. Going one and done again, I think that would leave a bitter taste in everybody's mouth. So, yeah, I absolutely think he is under a lot of pressure to deliver. Call it the hot seat if you want to, but yes, I think that will be very real if this team struggles.
Now, I'm far from a Mike McCarthy stand in any regard, but would it not be kind of unfair, given what we've just talked about? Have they depleted certain positions on the roster and kind of rolling the dice with their depth to expect him to be better, given that one thing could undo the whole season?
Whose fault is that? I mean, that's their job. They traded away Amari Cooper and cut Lyle Collins. I mean, the roster is the way that it is because they wanted it that way. That's what they chose to do. Whether that was Mike McCarthy's call or not is kind of irrelevant. And I think you can kind of lump Dak into that conversation as well, where you're like, man, you're asking a lot from Dak to lift up this roster, and then you look at it and you say, well, he's the $40 million man. That's what you're supposed to do. Go do it. And I think you can say the same thing about Mike McCarthy of like, well, you are the guy that's been doing this for 15 years. You have won the Super Bowl. You were the guy that kind of pitched yourself as having this amazing resume and you're a superior football coach. So I think that stuff probably, it sounds kind of hollow to a certain point. And like I said, I mean, the Cowboys, they made those choices. That was their call. This is the roster that they wanted. And so I don't think that's going to change their line of thinking if the team struggles. I think they would say, so what? Do more with less. That's what we want from you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Enjoy. I'm sure you will. David Hellman, Fox Sports, thank you very much as the Cowboys have arrived. And as you know, we've covered many of them. I haven't covered a camp in 2 or 3 years. Now, 3 years, I guess it is, since COVID. But, how the Cowboys look, they're getting off the bus. And it's fans, you want to know that. But to give you the timeline, like he said, they're going to basically do nothing in pads for quite some time. And training camp is not like back when I first went to one, when San Angelo with the Houston Oilers, when Earl and company were there, and they banged into each other and beat the hell out of each other in practice. It's a different animal now with the way it goes. What you hope is you get to training camp. Those who couldn't play at the end of last year have been healed, and those who are at training camp are healthy when you get to the opening game in September. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. I do have one thing to add here. You know about ESPN Plus, they raised their monthly deal, and I guess because I have to have it to watch things Big 12, I'm going to pay the extra, like I guess it's $9.99 a month or something. I'm not sure, but I'm thinking about it. The National Football League today, guess what they launched? NFL Plus.
And it's like NFL Plus Premium Plus dash. It's
$4.99 a month.
Or $9.99 a month if you want the actual good stuff.
Yeah, exclusive video streaming subscription service available today. NFL Plus available in the NFL app at NFL.com. Starting, that's where you get the hook, at $4.99 a month. They will sell bazillions of these.
Yeah, and a lot of media people I know buy that because you can get access to the All-22 video, which they use. Now, I'm fascinated that the NFL is so popular that they can convince regular fans to get the All-22 video, considering that, I mean, while you kind of know what you're watching, the All-22, unless you're a coach or somebody like that, really not much for you.
Yeah, I look at it. Now, here's the deal. The NFL Plus, which gives you quite a bit, is $4.99 a month, $39.99 a year. The premium is $9.99 a month, and just another way They will sell how many? I would love to know. They will sell millions, I would think, of these. Maybe not millions. They'll sell thousands upon thousands of these and just more money. Full game replays across devices, condensed game replays. That's worth it to me. Coaches film, as you mentioned, Paul, the All-22, ad-free, all features of NFL Plus. That's a pretty damn good deal to have that on your laptop or your phone. So that was out, and that's just another way. And that's what Brett Yormark and commissioners around college sports, they have to find other ways of getting their information out and making money themselves. One note, Craig, I got a couple of notes you can have for Off the Radar tomorrow, but John Michie, God, this is sad, diagnosed with leukemia. Now, the good news, it's the leukemia that's very curable, the most curable form. This guy, isn't he the one that had the injury last year? Mm-hmm. John Michie III, Houston Texans wide receiver, diagnosed with a form of leukemia, likely will not play this year. Right as they have opened up their training camp. I hate it for him. I like that kid. And you wonder where Alabama, Georgia won the national title. They were fantastic. But you had the Michie injury, and then, of course, they also had the receiver go down last year in the first half, Williams, who was having such a big game. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Paul's Top 5 is next.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 555.
Top 5 non-traditional teams with a shot at the CFP. Now, look, let's face it. At the end of the year, it's probably going to be who we all expect. I'm not trying to pump sunshine here. I'm just saying, if there's a team that can sneak past and get in, it's probably in these 5, in my opinion.
Like last year, Oklahoma State, if they win the Big 12 championship, and Baylor was knocking on the door. So you're looking at those types.
Those types of teams.
Because Cincinnati last year was the ultimate, but
yeah.
Okay.
So those are the teams I'm looking at here. Number 5, Wisconsin. This was like a couple of down the line in the Big Ten, but if their defense plays like their defense normally does, the running game runs like they normally do, and Graham Mertz can put on his pants and not throw 1,000 picks and play like the Graham Mertz they thought he was, this is a team that, based on their schedule, could sneak in. But again, they still have to make some big moves if they want to get in there. But I would not be surprised to see Wisconsin at least 2/3 through the season be a team that people are like, oh, damn, they're pretty good. But when they actually get to the big boys, probably peter out. But if things go their way, they could find themselves in the CFP, but it would be they're a stretch, but that's what this whole thing is about.
They're knocking on the door all the time. They're always pretty good. At times, maybe a little bit better than pretty good. But you know what? There's always something that gets in the way.
Yeah. Well, usually that thing is Ohio State.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
or losing to Minnesota
every single year, practically.
Yeah. But I mean, Wisconsin's schedule. They're at Ohio State September 24th, and then, at Michigan State October 15th. And so outside of that, the rest of their schedule, because I don't know what kind of Iowa team we're going to see this year is, who's Minnesota? Are they better? Everything else is about, at least a pick'em game, if not better for them.
Since 2000 it's been at 61-18, Ohio State leads the series. But Ohio State has won 8 times in a row or so, something like that.
Yeah.
Like 9 or 12 of the last 13, some number close to that. Man.
Now, yeah, and that's contingent on them probably going to Columbus and pulling the upset of all upsets. Number 4, Michigan State. I say this almost only because their coach just got $9 million, but they've got to replace Kenneth Walker. But again, you look at the schedule, and it's not, especially since we don't know who Penn State is. We don't know, Illinois, new coach again. Maryland's Maryland. Minnesota, we don't know who they are. Washington, new coach. That's a big non-con game for them. So it's really about Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Michigan for them. And if you're Michigan State and you can go 2-1 in those, and it's the right 2-1, you can find yourself in the CFP, especially given how people think about your brand. Deserving or no.
Talk about a guy that got a big bump in Mel Tucker.
Yeah.
A lot of smoke with what they're doing.
Yeah, people like them. People think that they're on the climb. But again, it's about this middle 3 stretch that they have, which are back-to-back games, back-to-back with a bye in the middle of Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Michigan. But if they win all those 3, boom, that's a team that's probably in the playoff, because I wouldn't see them losing any other games. But again, that's a tough 3 to make. Number 3, Baylor. Look, this is a team coming off the Big 12 title. The schedule, though, this year, and this is what gives me pause about Baylor, and I'm sorry, all the Baylor fans watching this, the one thing is the schedule really did work out for them with the home games they had last year. BYU at home, Texas at home, Oklahoma at home. Look, they get Oklahoma State to come here, so the wall-slapping arena of doom that they go into in Stillwater, which has been a house of horrors for them at times, they don't have to worry about that. But they have to go to West Virginia, a place that they have not figured out how to win at yet. They go to Lubbock, they go to Norman, they go to Austin. So all that makes it a little bit harder. But if they are really as good as we think that they might be, those may not be that big of a deal.
Yeah, if a lot of things go wrong, then they're not going to be in good shape. But if everything goes right, they will be. It's just sort of where they are. I'm a little bit hesitant to crown them Big 12 champs. Some people are all aboard that train, and I look at their schedule, and even if they had the whole team coming back from last year, I'd still balk a little bit at that schedule. I mean, let's not forget that they barely got a win over Texas Tech at home, and there was a couple of other games that were quite close that they were able to pull out, including the Big 12 championship at the end. So razor-thin margins, basically, to get a couple of those wins last year, and now the schedule flips to where you're on the road more. So, Blake Shapen, I do think he can be an upgrade over Gary Bohannon, but I'll say this for the 100th time. How much have we actually seen him play? We've seen him for 2.5 games, and people are acting like he was the starter the entire year last year. We saw him for 2.5 games. Now, I have faith that he can be great, but I do worry. I mean, we need to see him actually go out there and play in 6 or 7 games and not be hurt, because we saw him play in 3 or less than 3, and he got hurt. There's just a lot of – there's a lot of things that you can rely on, offensive line, defensive line. Those are going to be great. But, man, there are a whole bunch of other questions, starting with that schedule, that I'm just making me a little bit more hesitant to think this is going to be a 10-win type of year.
Yeah. Number 2, Oklahoma State. This is a team that returns their quarterback, Spencer Sanders, who got a remarkably better last year and was a guy that, me included, was like, I just don't know what to think of this guy. Although I always thought that if he ever really turned it on, he'd be good. And he, outside of playing Baylor, he was great. He really had problems against Baylor. Even in the game that they won, he turned the ball over against Baylor. But schedule-wise, I do think early on, they got a good chance to kind of get on a roll before they get into the meat of the Big 12 schedule. Now, granted, that means coming here on October 1st and playing at McLean Stadium. But I was more leaning towards them as the team that could overtake Baylor as a potential Big 12 champs than anybody else, just because their philosophy is there. They don't, I don't want to call it a lateral move, but I think that at worst it's a lateral move bringing Derek Mason as the defensive coordinator. So they're doing well there, and they've kind of reinvented themselves. And I think they've got a style of play that can wind up in the college football playoff.
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, they're one of the top favorites out there. I'll disagree with you on Spencer Sanders. I don't think that outside the Baylor games he had a great year. I mean, some will argue that he had a pretty good year, and some will even say, I suppose, great. But, I mean, those games against Baylor, that championship performance, dude. Yeah. I mean, come on. That was multiple interceptions in a Big 12 Conference championship game, and that has been his bugaboo. And in the biggest moment of last year, his bugaboo was right front and center for the entire world to see. Not that every necessarily interception was his fault, but I don't know. I just feel like we've been saying the same thing about him for 4 years at this point. Like, at what point do we just be realistic about it? If Spencer Sanders doesn't throw a bunch of bad interceptions or fumble the ball, Oklahoma State's got a chance to win a title. But if he does what he's done the last 4 years, then they're probably not going to win a title. To me, it's that simple. All the other stuff, they have questions like anybody else, but they also have a lot of answers. But who does Spencer Sanders want to be? The guy who's basically been the last 4 years, who will lose them games, or the guy who will be the superstar, the super athlete, the at his best, what he can do? Well, we've seen shades of that, and we've seen a lot more of him not at his best. So if now it's over, there's no more. Well, next year, if for the 5th year in a row, if Spencer Sanders doesn't do this over and over like he's done the last 4 years. Yeah, I mean, this is it. This is nut-cutting time for Spencer Sanders. So go out and win a championship and go out on top, or do a lot of the same, and they'll still be a really good team and maybe play for a title, but they're not going to win a bunch of stuff that's of substance.
Yeah. And number 1, Texas A&M. Look, this is the year where Jimbo Fisher has to at least make a stride for people to feel confident. But at that recruiting class, you can't really rely on most of them now because they're freshmen, no matter how awesome the recruiting class was. But to keep that recruiting class outside of the money they may be earning in NIL, to keep them interested, to keep them off the market, to do that, they've got to win some games this year. And look, the schedule is tough, but if Jimbo Fisher's really done what people think he's doing at Texas A&M, then he should be able to take some strides this year. But that Miami game in Kyle Field on September 17th is going to be very telling for both schools. The Arkansas game the week after, and then 2 weeks after that, they're at Alabama. And not to mention in the middle, they've got to go to Mississippi State, a team that beat them last year. They've got to beat the Mississippi schools. They've got to not lose to the teams that are worse than them. And then we don't even know what LSU is going to be at all. And that's the games at the end of the year. Now, granted, it's at home, but even still, they've only beaten them once since they got in the SEC anyway. So all those things have to change. But if they do, then A&M could very well be a team in the CFP because people think of them so well nationally.
Who's their quarterback?
Again, there's a great question.
Because last year that took them down. That might have led to maybe a game or two in which they didn't win because of that.
And I don't know, this probably sound harsh or come across the right way, but how long do you need to acclimate to a conference? Like, how long are we giving Oklahoma and Texas to get their SEC bearings about them?
For those two, immediately. Because of who they are, because of even no matter what Texas has been through for the last 10
We're not giving them a buffer of a couple years to get their lines right, like with A&M?
I don't think they will, but
All right, because the reason why I ask is A&M is entering year 11. 11 in the SEC. They've been in the league for 11 years. That's crazy, right? Yeah. They've been in the league for 11 freaking years, and we're still acting like they're still trying to get like their cornerbacks SEC. Are we not?
Well, and then look, the real question is how long does it take to act? It could be forever because South Carolina's never won the title either, so they're not acclimated. So
hell, Missouri almost won.
I know it sounds crazy, but Johnny Manziel went 11-2 and won the Heisman in their very first year. That was 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. That was 10 years ago. He's in his 30s now. Johnny Manziel's in his 30s. We're still talking about the same storyline of they just need to get the lines better and they just need to get damn, man, 8 wins, 9 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins, 7 wins, 8 wins, 8 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins. The only year that they've cracked 9 wins was that very first year. And since then, they've got 9 seasons, and they basically just done the same exact thing every single year, one way or another.
Which wasn't that who they were in the Big 12?
More or less.
So this is, I know there'll be some A&M fan who gets but it's just that's just facts. Like they've been in the league, they've celebrated their 10-year anniversary, and we're still talking about, they still need to adjust. And that's why I ask about Oklahoma, Texas, because I know damn sure they're going to come in and they're going to be expected to be Oklahoma, Texas pretty much right out of the gate. And A&M, having the whole Johnny Mania thing happen in year number 1 didn't do them any favors. That just shot expectations up through the roof. But they basically, since that Johnny year, that was their crowning achievement, they've been the same damn team record-wise. 7, 8, or 9 wins the entire decade.
You know what's really kind of weird about the history of A&M is right when they finally turned the corner and started owning the Southwest Conference under R.C. Slocum, the league fell apart and they joined the Big 12. So, they had started to really dominate that conference, including long streaks against Texas. 6, 7 years at one point where they were beating Texas all the time. They were they were the elite team in that league, and then it fell apart.
And that's why I asked you the question last week. Is what are the expectations? Because at least initially I knew it was, okay, they need to recruit differently, and they need to have the right coach or whatever. So, someone comes out guns blazing, so they feel like they got to make a change. They go as big as you can swing with Jimbo Fisher, and that's give Jimbo time or whatever. And so my question just becomes how much time do you need before we can start going? All right, you're 10 years into the SEC now. Can we start having some expectations for Christ's sake?
If I could just compare it to Jimbo's time at FSU, this is an interesting couple of years because this will be when all the quarterbacks on the roster, which is what Jimbo's forte is supposed to be, is a quarterback whisperer. All the quarterbacks are guys he wanted. And not guys he had to develop and bring, make better, like Kellen Mond was not a guy I think he would have ever signed at FSU. Not to knock Kellen Mond, it's just he wasn't stylistically that kind of a guy. And they had good enough success with Kellen Mond to make you think that on down the line. So, is it King? Is it, Connor Weigman? Is it any of these guys? Is it going to be Max Johnson as a patchwork? Then that's going to be very telling.
Yeah, in expectations, they've had them, but then you can always have we have to go against the SEC West.
Yeah, that's always.
But eventually,
you left for a reason, right? Yeah. So
all right, well, because even when you were playing against what at times was a pretty good Big 12, it was still pretty much the same record. I wish them the best. Good luck.
Well, we got to play Nebraska in the championship game and get throttled in 97.
6:06. Thanks for your time, Levi Caraway, Emery Winter. Thanks to Garrett Ross. When does Jack get back?
Wednesday.
Okay, he'll be back Wednesday. All right, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, thank you. The chat room sponsors, we appreciate all of you, and we keep adding them. TFNB, Your Bank for Life, the newest one we mentioned late last week, and more to come. Good night, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.